Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our YouTube video stream. We are on YouTube. Our channel is 580 Sports Talk, and we are on Facebook as well. Our page is WIBW News. We're back. There's no baseball today. There's no need for baseball today. The Royals broomed the Orioles right out of the postseason. And the Kansas City Royals are moving on to the American League Division Series. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and Brendan Dworzinski with you today. Brendan's out for a moment. He'll be back. Spencer's here for a second. He'll leave. He'll come back.
I'm here. I'm here.
You should have told me before I started talking.
I did tell you out in the hallway.
I ignored you then, apparently. I disregarded. I thought you were done, like, with your game prep tonight. You got a game to call today.
Yeah, I'm done with, I'm like 99. I got to write things in on the board to make sure that I know them. Yeah, that's.
Spencer's making his high school football play-by-play debut tonight here.
Yeah,
on
I'm not
580
sick
WIBW.
today.
Yeah, you're ready to rock and roll for 580 Preps Thursday Night Football presented by Lewis Toyota as the Topeka West Chargers play host to the Baser Linwood Bobcats. So that's what I thought you were talking about. So it was not it was just a miscommunication between you and I. But it's the two of us for now. Brendan Dworzinski will be along in a bit. And boy, we have a lot to talk about because we were not around for the last 2 days. As JB puts it on the YouTube comments, oh, this show's still on? I thought it was replaced by Denny and Ryan and Jake calling dramatic baseball. For the last 2 days, it certainly was. And there was a chance today if the Royals bullpen had wobbled, but they ain't got no wobble in them. Not for the last month and change. A 2-1 victory over the Baltimore Orioles yesterday, and the Kansas City Royals are still playing ball. The boys are still playing ball into the division series after sweeping the American League wild card round. We have lots of baseball to get to on the show today. We'll talk about the series, the last two games, and what was impressive, what was good, what was a little concerning, the offense going into the divisional series, and a contrast why the Royals deserve to be continuing their season and why the Orioles don't. The difference in approaches between those two franchises could not have been any more different, and the Royals got what they deserved, and the Orioles kind of did too by having their season come to an end in a sweep at home, scoring 1 run in 2 games. So,
tell you what, I know a lot of Orioles fans. Obviously, I'm from out that way.
Sure.
And, some people that I grew up with are Orioles fans because the Orioles were the team when we were first, starting out sports. They are so mad at their GM.
Yes.
So mad at their GM for not going out and getting something at the deadline like the Royals did.
And they should be. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So lots of Royals baseball to get to at the top of the show. We'll get to some Chiefs in the 4 o'clock hour. Rashee Rice may not be out for the season with a knee blown to smithereens. Like, no news, nothing new. Maybe that's good. But in the meantime, there is still plenty of speculation about the Chiefs maybe looking to add.
Well, he has been placed on the IR. That is 14 minutes ago news.
Yes, and that makes a lot of sense. I don't think there was anybody thinking he was going to play this week or anytime real soon, but there's no official diagnosis of the injury, I guess is what we'll say.
Yeah, that just make sure he's out for the next 4 weeks.
So we'll talk about that, but there has still been plenty of speculation about the Chiefs adding a wide receiver, and we'll get into that. Some possible trade targets brought up in The Athletic today that were very interesting. We've also got, because this is a Thursday, a full slate of guests joining us today, starting with Rick Peterson, TopSports.News, for the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight. That's coming up bottom of this hour. Paul Myerberg from USA Today will join us for the Big 12 football breakdown. That's coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And the great voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, will join with us at about 5:25 or so in the 5 o'clock hour. His weekly appearance is brought to us by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. So a full boat in that regard. We'll have sports headlines. We'll do our first What is Wrong with You of the month of October. We'll see basically if we can still remember how to do any of this after having the last 2 afternoons off to do what y'all were doing, sweating out Royals playoff baseball.
Hey, that's what I thought when I walked in here and I opened all these tabs and I was like, am I missing a tab?
Right.
Because I have a set amount of tabs that I open in here for the show stuff and then for Twitter and for our podcasting platform. And I'm like, wait, do I have everything open? Am I ready to go?
Yeah, you get out of a rhythm, and I think we maybe did. We'll find out here over the next 3 hours. You are invited and encouraged to be a part of the discussion here today on 580 Sports Talk. Hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That number is 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers. Top City Metal Supply will cut exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel tailored to your project specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. Again, that number, 785-272-9429. You can also join us in the live chat feature on our YouTube page. If you're watching along live on YouTube, the channel is 580 Sports Talk. Check it out if you haven't before. Subscribe to the page if you haven't already, and interact not just with your hosts, but also with fellow listeners of the show.
A lot in there so far.
Yes, it's a pop-in chat. People missed us. People, I think, are glad we're back. They're glad we're back today because they don't have to go through a game 3 of a best-of-3 series, as the first 2 games were tight enough. Excruciating is the word Tyler uses in the YouTube live chat. Bases loaded, nobody out in the 5th yesterday. Man, that was excruciating. Mark says, Dan, I bet you're happy to be back. We're happy to be back because the Royals won. If the Royals had lost the first 2 games, we'd kind of be bummed. We'd be hanging our heads, maybe kind of moaning and groaning, and it wouldn't be as much fun. We'd be wishing there was a game 3. Nah, man, it feels good. It feels good to be back, and it feels good to be talking about the Kansas City Royals still playing baseball, advancing to the division series. And I got to tell you, an offense doing just enough and a bullpen being absolutely nails. Man, you start to feel like we've been here before, don't you? Start to feel like it's 2014, 2015, and now you advance to play the Yankees in a best of 5. That wakes up some even older ghosts. I know there are listeners among us who remember 1976 and 1977 and 1978 and 1980. That one a little more fondly than the previous 3, to be certain. But it's the Yankees in a best of 5 waking up those ghosts. All the playoff ghosts of the past for the Royals have been awakened. And if you don't believe me, did you catch the start time for Saturday's game? Do you know what the start time is? The start time for the game.
It's 5:38.
5:38 Central Time. Do you know what that is in military time? 1738. You weren't around. You weren't around. You don't remember. 2015 Trap Queen by Fetty Wap was.
I know that song.
Yes, that was the song in the Royals clubhouse throughout that entire 2015 season. They used to make references to it in their postgame comments. Like Lorenzo Cain was always finding ways to reference both of those numbers in close proximity during his post-game interviews at his locker room. It was a whole thing, 1738. And the first game of this series starts at 1738. Are you kidding? All of the ghosts are awake. These boys are playing ball. These boys are moving on. The Kansas City Royals sweep the Baltimore Orioles. And look, they're going to have to probably score more than 1.5 runs per game if they want to keep playing ball any further than this series. But it's not as though the Royals were short on opportunities to put crooked numbers on the board yesterday. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't get the big hit. And that was sort of the story of really their early. You have to specify with the Royals which 7-game losing streak you're talking about in September, because they had 2 of them. But it was really the story of the first of the 7-game losing streaks. The second 7-game losing streak, they couldn't hit at all. The first one, it felt like they couldn't get the big hit. And that's what yesterday felt like. Yuli Gurriel comes up with runners on the corners in the 3rd, and he gets underneath a good pitch, a good hitter's pitch, and he pops up. MJ Melendez does what I think probably a lot of people watching expected he would do in the 5th inning with the bags chucked, and he strikes out. Salvi does what occasionally Salvador Perez will do and wave at a slider way out of the zone with the bases loaded in the 6th. Even Bobby Witt Jr., not immune. The Royals in the 8th inning handled the inning in a way that I think made a lot of people upset, at least on my social media. They weren't happy with how Matt Quatraro managed the top of the 8th inning. But at the end of the day, Royals got what they were looking for, a runner in scoring position and Bobby Witt Jr. at the plate, and Bobby Witt Jr. struck out. So opportunities were there, and opportunities for your best hitters. Like, you're giving your 2-hole hitter, your 4-hole, your 5, and your 6-hole hitters opportunities to drive in runs. And you went 0 for 4 in those spots. You keep doing that, eventually you'd like to feel like the dam will break, especially because the Royals are hitting the ball hard. There were 12 batted balls of 100 miles an hour or harder in yesterday's game. That's if you round up Vinny Pasquantino's second hit of the game, his single to right field. That was a 99.5 mile an hour batted ball. So we'll round up 12 batted balls, 100 miles an hour or harder, like objectively good to hit the ball that hard. The Royals had 9 of those 12, but only 4 of them were hits because only 2 of them were hit in the air. Royals got to start elevating a little bit more. Start hitting some line drives instead of beating the ball into the ground. And I think the dam can break offensively. I'm not as negative about the Royals offense as 3 runs in 2 games might lead you to believe.
It worked.
It did.
Like, that's the positive, and that's got to be their mentality is like, yeah, we need to hit more. We need to get those guys in that were on base. But we can do that in the work that we're going to be able to get over the next day and a half.
Let's field some questions before we get any further here. First, from the Top City Metal Supply text line from the 785. The Royals are the 5 seed. Detroit is the 6. Why is Kansas City not playing Cleveland and Detroit not playing the Yankees since the Yankees are the higher seed? They don't reseed the Major League Baseball playoffs. I don't know why they don't reseed these playoffs, but they don't. They reseed the NFL playoffs. They don't reseed the Major League Baseball playoffs. So they just bracket it. And the winner, the number 1 overall seed plays the winner of the 3 versus 6, and the number 2 seed plays the winner between the 4 and the 5. And I don't like that. I think that makes for unfair matchups, like the Phillies having to play the Braves last year, or the Braves getting the Phillies last year in the first round when the Dodgers got the much easier series on paper than the Diamondbacks. And of course, the joke was neither the Braves or the Dodgers won last year. But I don't like that they don't reseed, but they don't reseed. So that is the answer to that question. Other questions from the YouTube live chat. Why was Salvi swinging at balls that were 2-3 feet out of the strike zone? Well, Vance, that's Salvador Perez for you sometimes. I mean, you can tell he's excited to be in these moments. You could tell how much it meant to him when Lucas Erceg struck out Gunnar Henderson to end that game, the excitement that Salvador showed, the joy, there's no other way to put it, the joy on his face when he went to embrace Erceg. This means a lot to him, and I think you get to a point sometimes with Sal where he tries to do too much. Remember the 2014 wildcard game, guys? Salvador Perez, I think, would have swung at anything in that game. I think if a napkin had drifted out of the club level at Kauffman Stadium during one of his at-bats, he would have swung at it. He was swinging at everything in that game. And then, of course, the joke there is he got the end of the bat on one from Jason Hamill and poked it down the left field line and ended up winning the ball game. So, sometimes it works. But that's sometimes Salvi in these spots. He gets a little too overeager, even as a veteran, even as a guy you think, gosh, he's been around long enough, he might know better. Now, he's still going to get a little overeager, and teams know it. And until he starts laying off those sliders away, he's going to start seeing even more and more of those.
Hey, did you see the Royals social media graphic last night?
Yes, I did.
Did you know what it referred to?
Yes, the wire.
Well, no, what this specifically referred to.
Yes.
The Orioles. Post,
yes.
pre. Okay.
Yes, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I caught that. Yes. Tyler asked in the YouTube live comments, Vinny, player of the series. Tyler, Vinny changed the series because he changed how the Orioles chose to pitch to Bobby Witt Jr. We talked about this, you and I, Spencer, on the YouTube instant reaction last night. Vinny Pasquantino being in between Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez changes how teams pitch to Bobby Witt Jr. or approach the idea of pitching to Bobby Witt Jr., particularly with a base open, with 2 outs, with runners in scoring position, because especially with a guy like Salvi, who like you have a plan for Sal, you can get him out. You don't want to hang one. You don't want to make a mistake to Salvi, but you have an idea of how you're going to pitch Salvador Perez. So I think if it was still Witt, then Salvi 2-3, and Vinny hadn't come back this series, I don't know if Bobby Witt Jr. sees a pitch to hit in either of the at-bats that ended up winning the games in Game 1 and Game 2. But I think the threat of Pasquantino behind Bobby Witt Jr. in those spots, the fact that he's a savvy eye and knows the strike zone, the fact that he's a run producer, has a knack for driving in runs in that spot, the fact that he's a left-handed bat. So if you've got a right-hander lined up for Bobby Witt Jr., you don't love the thought maybe of that right-handed reliever facing the left-handed bat. Vinny Pasquantino's presence changed a lot, to say nothing for the fact that he had 2 hits and an RBI yesterday and got the scoring started for the Royals yesterday. Spencer, you and I, again, like I said, we discussed it last night, but his presence, I knew like from a vibes from an intangible standpoint, they were going to be happy to have him back. But I really believe just him being there, that's why Bobby Witt Jr. had the opportunities that he had.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you respect that part of the lineup even more, and you don't know, what he did when he was healthy, and that's the stats you have to go off of, how you hit, how to approach him as a pitcher, right? Well, he's been off for the last month. You don't really know what you're going to get, but he had 2 hits yesterday, and he got on base, I think, 4 times during the series.
And hit the ball hard, too.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, you're worried with the thumb, right? Like, gripping the bat, getting the bat through the zone. How's it going to feel?
Well, they even said on the broadcast, like, the vibrations, like he's playing through pain.
Oh, yeah. But, listen, I feel like if I were 5 weeks out of thumb surgery, it would hurt me a lot to swing the bat. We're all human, right? But, yeah, for him to not just, like, be taking good at bats, but he, like I said, his single to right field yesterday, that was a 100-mile-an-hour line drive off the bat, like swinging hard, hitting the ball with authority. He looks like the same guy. And you approach him like he's the same guy, and that means you approach Bobby Witt differently than teams did throughout the month of September. Last thing we have to get to, and Joe hits the nail on the head in the YouTube live chat. Cannot believe it, but the bullpen was the MVP of the series. How about 7 2/3 scoreless innings for this group? I think it was fair to wonder, even as we talked about how great they were through the month of September. We gave you the stats throughout the month. September's not October, right?
Exactly.
This is a
whole new animal,
brand new pressure cooker. And these guys, you look at who it was.
How many of those guys have actually played in the playoffs before?
I don't think any of them. But Schreiber, maybe. Was he with Boston when they were in the playoffs last? I genuinely don't know.
I don't know. But just like they haven't felt that. Like you go in and to be a guy out of the bullpen anyway is hard to do, especially in the playoffs. But you've never sniffed that experience in the majors. It was so hard.
It was Schreiber's first playoff outing yesterday. So, yeah, all of them. Zerpa, Long, Bubic.
And
Schreiber,
Zerpa, you threw him in there in a spot in which you don't wish on anyone. Oh. The bases loaded, 1 out, and the one swing of the bat could change the complexion of the ball game.
And it did, just not in the way Baltimore was hoping.
Yeah.
Because Colton Cowser strikes at a pitch that broke his hand.
I did not see that he...
Yeah.
I didn't see that part.
Broke his hand, and he swung at the pitch. And look, man, hitting a baseball is really hard. And that's... You watch Zerpa all year, it's 98 with run in on a lefty when he chooses to try and throw it on the inside corner. And boy, it ran in on Cowser. It ate him up all right. And he swings at a pitch that breaks his hand. And instead of the go-ahead run crossing the plate, it's 2 outs. And then Adley Rutschman, who, boy, it's going to be an uncomfortable offseason for Adley Rutschman because it was a very disappointing sophomore season for
Well, it was really
catcher.
From after the All-Star break. He had a pretty good first half.
He did.
And then it was post All-Star break slump.
Yes, he is going to have to answer some Matt Wieters allegations that are going to be really uncomfortable for him. We had somebody make a reference with JB in the YouTube live chat. I noticed Orioles fans booing Bobby Witt. Was that because he's easy to hate or mad they didn't draft him? I think the Rutschman over Witt choice, that's one of those where at the time you couldn't make a wrong one.
I mean, it's the 2 different positions.
Right.
Like and
I'm still bullish on Rutschman long term, but boy, he had a miserable second half and closed his
They
season.
say that when they have one of the best shortstops also in the game.
They do. It was pretty clear through 2 games of this series which one was a little more ready than the other. But the point I want to make about Rutschman is, I mean, he's up 2-0 in the count against Zerpa. Zerpa's got to throw him a strike, and he threw him a 2-0 fastball that could not have been any more center cut, and Rutschman wasn't ready for it and took it. And I think it was 2 pitches later, he ends up grounding out to Bobby Witt Jr., and that's the end of that threat. And, man, you could feel and hear the air go out of the balloon at Camden Yards.
Yeah.
It was at that point I started to feel really confident the Royals were going to win the game. Even though it was tied at that point, you let an opportunity like that slip, the tension in the ballpark just gets thicker and thicker, and it gets harder to overcome that if you're the home team and you're the one that's tight and you're the one that's lost as a franchise 9 straight playoff games, and you're the franchise that got swept out of the playoffs last year, and you're looking at it happening again on your home field. They got tight, and the Royals never did, and their unheralded inexperienced in the playoffs bullpen was absolutely nails. You told me Seth Lugo had to leave that game in the 5th. You told me before first pitch, Seth Lugo doesn't get through the 5th. I would have said, well, I guess we'll see you for game 3 tomorrow.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I took away, we talked about it last night on the post game, was the pure fact that you go from game 1 to game 2. It's midweek, yeah, I understand it, but it's playoff baseball, and you have less people in the stands in game 2 than you did game 1, and it doesn't help at all when your team's down 2-1. That guess what? There's not a lot of fans. They're not sold out. They're 5,000, 6,000 less people there than that were there in game 1.
I don't know that they believed. And it's just amazing, bigger picture, how little home field advantage has seemed to matter recently in the playoffs. I think home teams in the playoffs have lost 15 of the last 20 playoff games. And in these wild card series, this is now the 3rd year of these best of 3s, home teams have lost more than they've won. The home teams lost 3 of these 4 series in 2022. Home and visiting teams split last year. And this year, we've already seen 2 home teams, Houston and Baltimore, lose. And the Brewers very nearly did before they rallied and beat the Mets to force the only game 3 we get tonight over in the National League. So home field advantage, not so much in these series. They're short and they're tense. And if you play with confidence and you're the team with nothing to lose, and that's clearly how the Royals are approaching this, that feels more like an advantage than getting last up.
Well, I think home field advantage is hard too. Like, I just said what I said about the attendance in game 1-2 difference. It's a lot easier when it's just a 1-game wild card. Like going back to, the experience I have watching wild card games, 2019 National League wild card, the Nats Park was literally standing room only.
Mm-hmm.
And if you looked at every crowd shot possible, there was not an open seat in that joint. You looked at the crowd shots and, they might have a little bit more seating than Nationals Park or what I'm comparing it to. There was dozens and dozens of open rows up top. And it's hard when there's multiple games that it doesn't give you that much of a home field advantage when, hey, playoff tickets are so expensive, we can only go to a certain amount of one.
You can only go to 1, maybe. Yeah, no, I think that there's certainly a part of that, too, that factors in. I think the thing that factors in this year is since there were no, great teams, there's just not a lot separating Baltimore and Kansas City.
Well, especially because the final month, right? Both teams did not do as well in the final month. The Royals a little bit worse.
Yeah, if you make the sample size even bigger over the final 3 months, the Royals are actually 4 games better than the Orioles were.
Yeah,
a sense about the All-Star break. So yeah, just not much between these 2 teams. So I don't know how much of an upset you can really call it this year when a road team beats a home team. The Royals will be the road team again for the first 2 games of the division series, but game 3 Wednesday will be at Kauffman Stadium, and I don't think there are going to be empty seats in that joint for a city that's been waiting 9 years for the return of playoff baseball. We'll talk some more Royals on the other side of this timeout. Lots of great guests on the show today. Rick Peterson, Paul Myerberg, Mitch Holthus, our usual Passel of Thursday guests, plus your texts, your comments. We're just getting started on it's a Royals Victory Thursday, I think we can call it here on 580 Sports Talk. 3:32 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting underway on this Thursday edition. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis. Gang's all here now. If you're watching on the YouTube live stream, you can see that I missed the memo. Brendan and Spencer teamed up, and they look dashing today in kind of matching color combinations.
Same color shirts. Both got a haircut literally today.
Within an hour of each other.
Spencer has more manicured his facial hair for the postseason. I just straight up shaved mine off because I look like crap. But other than that,
I went a different way here.
Yeah,
I'm going with the playoff little
like Fu Manchu kind of.
Yeah,
you look like a number 4 starter who gave 5 1/3 really good innings in the ALDS.
Joe Blanton type beat.
No, for real though. Like, just seriously, like, what athlete can you think of that has a goatee today that isn't like a middle of the rotation pitcher?
No, like relievers.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, that's a relief pitcher aesthetic to me more than it's a starting pitcher aesthetic.
If you grow it out, if you keep the side manicured and you just grow the goatee out for a little bit, young Matt Clement.
All right.
I am trying to see if I like this. I got a lot of pushback from my girlfriend.
Not a great start.
And the rest of my family. I got a text after the instant reaction the other night from my mom and my sister. They're like, "What in the world?"
That's tough. Oh goodness. Hope you did watch our instant reaction videos after both of the Royals playoff wins. We'll keep those going over on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook, WIBW News. The Royals are moving on. The Orioles are not. These are two teams that could not have been more polar opposites last year, right? The Orioles won 101 games and won the American League East going away last year. The Royals, of course, lost 106 games. Their off seasons, the Royals went and spent $110 million on free agents. During the season, they turned over every rock they possibly could to upgrade their team at the trade deadline and then again at the waiver deadline. They had 24 hours after the Vinny Pasquantino injury to do something, and they came up with 3 guys. And they did all of that in the service of being the best team and having the best 26-man roster they possibly could. And they went from 56 wins to 86 wins, and now they're going to the division series. Contrast that with the Orioles, who were 10 wins worse than they were last year. Now, look, I can't knock the Corbin Burns trade. That was a good trade that the Orioles made this offseason. They knew they had to go get a top-of-the-rotation starter. They went and got a stud. And, man, Burns was awesome on Tuesday. That's as good as you can pitch and not win a baseball game. Corbin Burns on Tuesday night there in Baltimore. The only other thing they did in the offseason to upgrade their big league roster was sign Craig Kimbrell. And they cut him a week before the playoffs started. Then at the trade deadline, when they knew that they had issues with their starting pitching, they went and added Zach Eflin, who's like fine. They went and got Trevor Rogers, who didn't even make the postseason roster, and they cashed in 2 of their best prospects to get that guy from Miami. And then got a bunch of guys who were low-leverage relievers on better teams, Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez. Eloy Jimenez didn't make the postseason roster. Austin Slater, platoon bat. And they said, well, that's good enough. They had not tried to maximize this opportunity that is in front of them, where they are paying Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman and Colton Cowser and Heston Kjerstad and Jordan Westberg and Jackson Holiday. All those guys are making $12.50 an hour plus tips. And this is your opportunity to go spend some money and build a champion. And the Orioles cheaped out, and they didn't go all in. They did not push their chips in like the Royals did. And now they paid the price because the Royals are moving on. The Orioles are going home.
I would like to take this opportunity to reset things to, was it 2 summers ago? Maybe it was even last summer. I'd like to reverse course a little bit here and revisit a conversation, Dan, that you and I had about the state of the Kansas City Royals sometime within the last 18 to 24 months. Why can't the Royals figure this out? You've probably heard or remember hearing a conversation like this, I don't know, 100 times in the last 6 years prior to this one, you on the other side of these radios. And we had a whole long discussion about why can't this team figure it out? Why have they not been able to turn it around? Maybe it was when Dayton Moore got fired. Maybe that's when we had this specific discussion. And do you remember what team we used as an example for you don't need to suck forever. You don't need to be garbage forever to turn things around. It is possible to get out of the doldrums and to win a ton of games, even win a division to make the playoffs, as long as you have the right people in charge. Do you know what team we used as an example when talking about the Royals in that context?
Was it the Baltimore Orioles?
It was the Baltimore Orioles, an Orioles team that last year won 101 games, 101 and 61. Maybe it was even more recently than I realized. Maybe it was just our post-mortem for this past season when the Royals won 56 games and we considered, maybe AA is better for this franchise. That is the comparison. It's amazing. It tells you how quickly things can change. Again, if you have the right people in place. Matt Quatraro is not perfect. I like him more than some people. Some people dislike him more than me. I think he's a pretty good manager, all things considered. J.J. Piccolo clearly knows what he is doing. John Sherman, I've got my beef with him. But as annoying as it is for this to be the case, he said, you know what? Spend. Go ahead. JJ, here's the routing number, okay?
It's like we said on Monday. We've got the superstar. We've got the ace. That's the hard part.
Yep.
Let's do the easy part and build around stars.
Supplement them.
Yes.
And that is what they did. You have the right people in place. They have turned it around very quickly. It's amazing how rapidly this narrative has changed. That, the Orioles peaked, and also they completely botched the trade deadline compared to the Royals, who after the better part of a decade where the deadline was either, well, we can't trade Eric Hosmer. What if we get the last wild card? To then, you know what? We have a chance to make it to the playoffs. Let's go get the best relief pitcher we've had in 9 years. Yeah. Let's go get a legitimate star in the making. We knew he was good. I didn't know Lucas Erceg would be this good with the Royals, but he has been this good. They said,
then retooling on the fly, too.
We need help. We need a bat. We need somebody to try to provide something. DeYoung hasn't been great, but you took the swing. Yeah. You went for it. The Orioles just sat on their hands and said, oh, well.
Yeah, we'll add on the fringes instead of, we've got a great roster. Let's go even higher. They sat on their hands and they made fringe additions where the Royals were much more specific and much more targeted, and they got the better results, and they deserve this. They tried, and they are reaping the fruits of their labor, and the Orioles are left to wonder, man, what might have been if we were a little bit more serious about spending money, about trading some of our prospects, about pushing our chips further to the table, because this sucks.
The Royals were willing to say, look at our roster. We have two great arms at the top of the rotation and two who we trust. We've got a true superstar and a really good 2 through 4 overall and an iffy bullpen. Let's go find another bat who can help. Let's find relief help. Let's find a starter who can supplement that starting rotation so we don't have to go Alec Marsh every 5 days. The Orioles said, well, I'm sure Adley Rutschman will turn it around at some point. No, a smart team says, while we wait for him to figure it out, we need that pop back in the lineup. This is a guy who hit 277 last year. He's at 250 this year. We need to supplement that as we wait for him to get back.
Let's go get some guys who were good 2 years ago. Let's go get Eloy Jimenez, who was only good in the COVID year. Let's go get Trevor Rogers. We can fix him. No, you couldn't.
I have a question I'd like to pose to you guys real quick. Would we be talking about the Orioles winning the AL wild card right now if they hadn't gone out after Vinny's injury and gotten the guys that got Yuri Gurriel, Tommy Pham to be those plugins for the final month?
Those guys
yeah.
Those guys, yeah.
Would we be here talking about them?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Probably
I don't think they would have made the wild card.
Yeah, they may have missed the playoffs altogether. We got to take a break. Rick Peterson joins us next for the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Flaming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is Rick Peterson of TopSports.News, covering all things Shawnee County high school sports and Washburn University athletics. The website is TopSports.News. His Twitter handle is @Peterson_Rick, and he joins us for the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight. Pistol, let's jump right into it with some high school football, and let's look ahead to our 580 Preps game of the week tomorrow night here on 580 WIBW. Washburn Rural and Topeka High at Hummer Sports Park. The Trojans come in 4-0. That matches the total number of wins that they had the last 3 years combined. They take on a rural team that is 1-3 on the year. Now, both teams' records, a product of the schedules that they've played so far. But I got to admit, this matchup a lot more intriguing right now than it might have been on paper all the way back when we started the season. The Trojans going in a good direction.
It'll be a good game. I've been impressed with the Topeka High. You know, I haven't seen it as much as I'd like to because they've been on the road a lot, but they got some speed. They got some experienced players, and you know, with every win, you pick up a little more confidence. So I think they're feeling pretty good about themselves going into that game against Rural. Of course, Rural's had just a brutal schedule. 3 straight teams with a combined record. I think it's 12-1 maybe. So they'll be ready to play too.
It is 12-1. The 3 teams that have beaten in the last 3 weeks, Platte County and Blue Valley Northwest, both undefeated. Some other big football matchups on this Friday night in the county. Lansing is at Seaman. This is a big one between 2 teams undefeated in the United Kansas Conference and probably Seaman's sternest league test to date. What's your read on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I before the season started, I thought Seaman had a really good chance to challenge for the UKC title. Then when they lost that non-league game to Shawnee Mission East, I didn't know quite what to expect. But I still think this will be a watershed moment for them if they can get this win tomorrow night.
Highland Park is 4-0, and 0 is also the number of points they've allowed in their first 4 games this year. They have not allowed any points in their first 4 games. Well, they got a big test this Friday night. They go out on the road to take on Wichita East. One way or another, you got to believe this is going to be a really good game for Jermaine Monroe's team to play. They're going to learn a lot about themselves, I think, on this Friday night.
The next 2 weeks, they're going to learn a lot about themselves at Wichita East, and then turn right around and play Atchison, which has kind of been the team to beat in the Meadowlark Conference. So I think the next 2 weeks will show just how they stack up. You know, they're going to have a good record coming out of the regular season, but I think these next 2 weeks will show maybe how far they're capable of going in the playoffs.
One other local high school football game I want to get your thoughts on as a preview here, Pistol, is the Shawnee Heights DeSoto game. No, DeSoto's really good, always in the mix in the United Kansas Conference. Shawnee Heights has lost 2 straight games by a combined 14 points. Jason Swift's group is right on the cusp. And when you talk to him, it seems like that's the way he feels about this group too.
Yeah, last week's loss kind of surprised me. I thought they'd beat Leavenworth, and then I didn't really expect DeSoto to lose. So both teams are kind of looking to bounce back tomorrow night.
Joined by Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. It's the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol joins us every Thursday at this time. Make sure you go check out all of his fantastic work covering our local programs at TopSports.News. On the Washburn front, Pistol, Hall of Fame weekend for the Ichabods. We'll get to the game in a moment, but this is a pretty star-studded group of Hall of Famers getting honored tomorrow, or on Saturday, excuse me.
Yeah, they are, and there's that just shows you again how many great athletes, coaches, teams have come out of Washburn. And I'm always very pro Hall of Fame, whether it be our local Hall of Fame or the school's Hall of Fames, because I just think it's great. The more people you can honor, I think it really helps your legacy of your program and just makes people remember how great of athletes, coaches, and teams they did have.
On to the game itself. Northwest Missouri State coming in. They had a low-scoring knockdown drag-out game last week in a win over Emporia. Washburn played its best game of the year as they took on and beat Missouri Western. Interesting matchup here, Pistol. To me, the biggest matchup is that Washburn secondary. It's been banged up the last couple of weeks, taking on a Northwest team that wants to throw the ball and throw it a lot. What would you say is the biggest X factor if Washburn wants to pull off a win?
Well, they played very, very well defensively last week. And like you said, they're going to really have to plug some gaps on defense and continue to play and gain momentum like they did last week. I think they can do that. I think offensively, Washburn's ready to roll a little bit. But like Coach and I talked yesterday, people may not be talking about Northwest as much as they were 3-4 years ago, but Northwest is still Northwest. So it's going to be a real test for the Ichabods.
How big of a deal do you think the pass rush is going to be in this game? Because when you talk about a secondary that has a bunch of guys injured, Jaquez White, Jordan Finney, DeAndre Washington all played well a week ago, but there are a lot of injuries back there. To me, to help those guys out, you got to go hit the quarterback a bunch, make him uncomfortable. Would you say that that's maybe one of the biggest things that Washburn has to key in on this weekend?
You know, that's what I always look for on defense. I think a pass rush sets up everything. But, you know, it throws off the offense's timing. And two, like you say, you can't let any quarterback in the MIAA sit back there and you know, pick apart and pick out receivers. So, yeah, I think it's huge. And I do think Washburn has the guys that can get to the quarterback. But, you know, you put them on their rear a couple of times and they're not quite as effective looking downfield.
Couple more questions for Rick Peterson at TopSports.News, joining us for the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. I want to go back to about a week ago in the Rimrock Classic and another win in cross country for Ryan Miller, the junior from Seaman, who is making a late bid perhaps to move very far up your list of the 100 greatest women athletes in Shawnee County history. This is we knew she was a remarkable talent, but boy, she seems to have hit another level as a junior.
Well, and I think that was her biggest win on Saturday for a couple reasons. One, she beat the two girls that beat her in last year's 5A state meet, including the two-time defending state champ. And it was also on the course where they will be running the state meet. So I think that's huge. And like you said, yeah, I don't know what to expect of Ryan Miller anymore. I mean, and I mean that with the greatest of respect. Every time I think she might be hitting a plateau, she goes out and does something a little better. So it's fun. It's fun. I get to see most of her races, and she's really fun to watch.
Speaking of Seaman girls sports, their volleyball team won the 5A state title last year, had some losses to graduation and transfer, but they don't seem to have missed a beat. They're 21-1 on this season.
They really looked good in that tournament that I was at last Saturday. They went 6-0, 6 straight set wins, and really I can't remember any that were real close. So they just Megan Mills, of course, sets everything up. She's the Tulsa recruit, and she really sets things up. But they got a lot of good players in virtually every position in that lineup.
Rick Peterson covers it all for TopSports.News. It's all things Shawnee County high school sports and Washburn University athletics. It is a must-read every single day. I read it every day. You should too. TopSports.News. Follow Pistol on Twitter if you're there as well, at Peterson_Rick, and catch him every Thursday on the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight. Pistol, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Look forward to it.
That is Rick Peterson. We'll take a break, come back, and wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk right after this. Quick either or over under to wrap up this 3:00 hour. Over under 2.5 higher seeds, the teams that got a bye, advancing to the championship series in Major League Baseball. 2.5 over under.
Well, that might help if I'm not thinking we're off the
Get
air.
out of the queue, man.
I'll take the under at 2. We're going to go split.
Okay.
All right.
We've been talking about how home field advantage seems to not matter much in the playoffs anymore.
Yeah. You can turn up more Zeppelin. That's fine. So the higher seeds, I will give you
Yankees, Guardians, AL, Dodgers, Phillies, NL.
over. Phillies, Dodgers, and Yankees.
It's kind of my lean right now, too. I mean,
Dude, the Tigers
actually,
are untouchable.
No. Yeah, the Tigers may just never lose. I think the Guardians are better, but the Tigers also just might never lose again. I actually think the Padres are going to get the Dodgers. The Dodgers had no
They're playing
pitch.
well, man.
Padres are playing well. The Dodgers had no pitching.
Are you prepared?
That's where I'm at.
To start game 3 of the division series for the Dodgers? Yes.
That too. No,
my arm is loose.
Are you prepared for ratings discourse? No one's going to watch Detroit, San Diego in a World Series. Okay? Sick. You pay attention to ratings. I'll watch Tarek Skubal.
Hey, a little 1984 reset. Kirk
Nerds.
Gibson off Goose Gossage. If you know, you know. Hour number 2 of 5A Sports Talk up next. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk coming in hot on this Thursday afternoon. Great to be with you. Our first show of the month of October, thanks to the Kansas City Royals. Royals are moving on in the playoffs. The division series starts on Saturday. Brendan, I'll ask you, did you notice the first pitch time for Saturday was 17:38?
I did, because everyone who's ever watched a Royals game was incapable of not tweeting about it. Had to say it.
Look, man, the best part of every deep playoff run that your team has, and I think this is more like, I don't know if it really works for football as well as it works for like baseball, basketball, hockey, where there are more games, there's more time to build up the fun. There's always that like one thing that catches on. It was Baby Shark for Gerardo Parra, or all the small things, the fans singing at Pepsi Center when the Avalanche won the cup a couple of years ago. It was Gloria for the St. Louis Blues. Every team, there's that thing, and a lot of times it is a song, and you hear it, and instantly you're thinking about that team at that time. And Trap Queen will always be that song for the 2015 Royals, which is very funny. Fetty Wap not doing too good, by the way. He is in jail.
Everybody want to be Fetty Wap. No one want to lose an eye or do time.
Yeah, he was selling drugs.
You know what's
He's
funny?
in jail.
So
It's kind of funny, sorry, that he was arrested for selling drugs, yet he had like a #1 song in America for like a good little
about
while.
drugs.
Yeah.
He wasn't lying. The funny thing about that year, I mean, I was in college, and I was not exactly like living and dying with the Royals at the time. At the time, I thought of Trap Queen as a Dexter Fowler song. I associated that song with the Cubs because Dexter Fowler's first year with Chicago was 2015, and he used Trap Queen as walk-up music. So I went to a couple games that summer. Hell yeah, this rules. Dexter Fowler's so cool. Then I saw a bunch of Royals fans listening it and thought, hey, wait, that's Stolen Valor. Only to realize maybe multiple people like this extremely popular #1 song.
Every post-game, Lorenzo Cain was like, yes, anything that's between 17 and 38 miles per hour, I was going to swing at. Or, yeah, I was coming around third, probably like 17 or maybe 38 miles per hour. Or, yeah, I threw him out by 17 feet, or maybe it was 38. Like, mixing it in every post-game. It was very funny. It was a good
Did
time.
you know Fetty Wap has like 5 more years left on his sentence?
Yeah, he's in jail for a while.
What did he do?
Years.
He's doing some real time.
Conspiracy to distribute and possess controlled substances. He was arrested at Citi Field and pled not guilty to federal drug charges. That was in 2021, and then he violated the terms of pretrial release. He pled guilty to drug charges, and then in May of 2023, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Do you know what the feds love doing? Putting rappers in prison.
Elkton, Ohio is where this federal correctional institution is.
I will just say this. This is generally a goal for life. You do not want to have a legal issues section on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that's tough.
You don't want that.
That's tough.
Gucci Mane was one of his biggest influences. Gucci Mane famously in jail
it
for
all
a while.
ties together.
Yes.
It all circles back together.
Yes, you want him to be an influence in some ways, but not all ways.
I want to get an ice cream tattoo.
Yes. I want to write a song as good as Lemonade.
I do not want to go to jail.
I do not want to do prison time. Anyhow, the Royals are moving on. Saturday, game 1, 5:38 Central Time. You'll hear it, of course, right here on 580 WIBW with the pregame starting at 5 o'clock. Monday's game will start at 6:38. So pregame will be at 6 o'clock. So 580 Sports Talk on Monday will take you right up until we hand it off to the Royals Baseball Network at 6 o'clock. Boy, what a night that's going to be. You better got 2 TVs. You better have your man cave ready to rock for Monday night with the Royals and the Chiefs at the same time. Chiefs, of course, playing Monday Night Football. If you want to hear the Chiefs game on Monday night, you're going to have to flip it over to our sister station, the big 94.5 Country, 94.5 FM WIBW for the radio broadcast with Mitch, Danon, and Josh.
How, not to get too inside baseball or to insult any group of listeners to any sort of radio station, how often do you think when we've got a conflict and the Chiefs take over 94.5 for an evening or an afternoon, Sally, who loves Luke Bryan, just gets so furious? Like, who is this? Why am I listening to Travis Kelce right now?
Well,
I'm going to tell you this.
There's music you can put on your phone, or
Yeah.
There's also, we have 106.9.
Yes, this is true. But
my theoretical Sally is much more interested in music from the 2010s or 2020s than music from the 1980s, though.
Anyway, so and that's how we'll continue to do it. Obviously, the Royals, any Royals game will be right here on 580 WIBW. In case of conflict, we move the Chiefs on Monday over to 94.5 FM, WIBW FM, the big 94.5 country on Monday. Also this weekend, while we're doing show business or station business here, we'll have a couple of national radio broadcasts for you from college and pro football on Saturday morning, 10:30 pregame, 11 o'clock kick. We've got some SEC football from Compass Media Network's Mizzou at Texas A&M, little old Big 12 matchup that's now an SEC battle.
Not Team Meteor.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure KU fans are rooting for a very specific outcome, and that is a stadium flattening meteor to hit Kyle Field.
Now, listen, because I'm sure it will be a good game, but
yeah, well, so we've got that game that we're going to bring in, national broadcast on Saturday. Then on Sunday, also from the folks at Compass Media Networks, Bengals-Ravens, a noon kickoff. We'll have pregame coverage at 11:30 and broadcast of that game at noon. Then, of course, we'll have Westwood One's coverage of Sunday Night Football, which I've already forgotten who that is this week.
Sunday Night Football, I definitely know who it is and don't need to look it up right now while I am vamping.
Who's looking it up?
And I will tell you, it's Cowboys-Steelers.
Oh, yeah.
Only one Monday night game this week.
Yes.
Back to normal. And, of course, it is Chiefs Saints.
What's the TV going to be on Monday night? Your main screen.
Main screen will be baseball.
Same for you?
I got two of the same size screens, so I'll just flip the volume back and forth.
You still got a screen A and screen B, though, right?
Yeah.
So what's going on A?
What's going on A?
Yeah, screen A. Which one are you going to sit in front of?
I don't know, because I got this new thing where I put them together like this in like a V.
Spencer is living in the year 3000.
Innovating.
So, and then I'll just have both remotes, one on mute, the other full volume, then flip the other one. It's as easy as that. If I see Bobby Wood Jr. coming up with runners on base, you know what I'm going to do? Turn off the Monday Night Football audio and turn on TBS audio.
This must be like when the cavemen discovered fire. Revolutionary.
So that will be Monday night. Royals in the Bronx, Chiefs at home against the Saints, and again, Royals on 580, Chiefs on 94.5. We'll get there when we get there. We'll have a full Monday show, and we'll have plenty to talk about. We will preview Royals Yankees on tomorrow's edition of 580 Sports Talk. But speaking of the Chiefs, Rashee Rice earlier this afternoon placed on injured reserve by the Chiefs. This is a procedural move that is, frankly, pretty sensible given that Rashee Rice is unlikely to play in the next 4 games, regardless of what the final diagnosis of the injury ends up being. And there has been no final formal diagnosis of this injury, which is very strange now, 4 days out of Rice having suffered the injury. It was pretty unlikely he was going to play in the next 4 games anyway. So to injured reserve he goes. That allows the Chiefs to replace him on the 53-man roster, get another wide receiver on to the roster. Pete Sweeney, who's been covering the Chiefs for a long time, a lot of different sources, tweeted earlier today that Rashee Rice was spotted in the Chiefs locker room. His right leg was in a full leg sleeve, and he was walking about normally without crutches. Now, that doesn't,
to me, that means no ACL.
Now, I've seen guys walk off ACL. I've seen guys play with torn ACLs. Like that I don't think that is necessarily there's no torn ACL. But I'm also starting to side with those who have said, hey, we would have heard it was a torn ACL if it was a torn ACL.
Yeah.
So hard to say at this point. They keep saying they're waiting for the swelling to go down before they can really make a final diagnosis. It's very strange. It's Schrodinger's injury, right? Like we really don't know what's going on inside Rashee Rice's knee. We just know we're not going to see him for at least the next 4 weeks. That was probably at a bare minimum the expected outcome. And if the Chiefs get Rashee Rice back on the field at any point in 2024, I think you have to consider that some spectacularly good fortune at this point. But also, you would call it a non-zero chance at this point, where I was not willing to do that on Sunday, watching the way he reacted to the injury in particular. Like, because guys know, right? Like, guys know when the injury's bad. And Rashee Rice looked like somebody who knew it was bad. And Andy Reid was willing to say on the spot that it wasn't good. So the fact that there could be an outcome here that is not season-ending injury is fairly miraculous. But his injury and Hollywood Brown's injury leave the Chiefs thin at wide receiver. We have talked about this. And Nate Taylor and the athletic staff put together a list of trade possibilities at wide receiver for the Chiefs. Now, trade deadline is still 4 weeks away. So there's a lot of time between now and then for the Chiefs to decide to make a move or find out that actually Rashee Rice is fine and he'll be back in 4 weeks. And you have to consider the full range of possibilities at this stage. But if the Chiefs were to trade for a wide receiver, some of the beat writers at The Athletic were throwing out some possibilities. For instance, Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the Bills.
The show, the podcast, Football 301, it's over at Yahoo. I know I've said it a few times recently. It's really good. Nate Tice, Matt Harmon, Charles McDonald. It's a really, really good podcast. They were joking the other day while recapping last weekend's games, saying, like, I can't believe MVS isn't already a Chief. Like, I'm shocked they haven't already gone out again. They essentially were complaining about Andy Reid and, like, we don't love some of the play calls. We don't love some of the play design. I don't really love how they've built a lot of their offensive talent, and yet they're better than everybody else. And their whole point was like, it's annoying that they are so good, despite the fact that they don't make it easy on themselves. My official stance on this is get out of my face. No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If they'd wanted to bring him back, they would have brought him back.
Yeah.
What do you think MVS is up to this season, real quick?
I can tell you exactly what he's up to this season. He's played 40% of the snaps and has 2 catches.
That many, huh? Has there been anyone who has gotten by as well, I'm sure there are some, but like this dude has just cozied up to 3 of the best quarterbacks in a generation. He got to play with Rodgers, Mahomes, and Allen. That's crazy.
And all he's doing is closing the rings on his Apple Watch out there. Basically Sky Moore, just getting the cardio in. Text from the 316. By the way, the Top City Middle Supply text line wide open for you today, 785-272-9429. Ask MVS, why not Kadarius Toney? Let's really handcuff Mahomes. Texter from the 316. You're not going to believe this. Kadarius Toney's hurt. You're not going to believe this, but he hasn't been practicing. He's on the practice squad with the Browns, but he's a little dinged up. I know. Can't believe it either about a guy like Kadarius Toney. He's been the picture of health in his NFL career. He has not been practicing with the Browns, so that is not happening. So anyway, that's one idea. Carolina is probably going to be looking to or open for some business. Deontay Johnson has had a couple of big games for them. Adam Thielen has been hurt, dealing with a hamstring injury, but a veteran wide receiver, good route runner. Either of those tickle your fancy?
Thielen at this point, like late stage Jason Avant, like he's going to catch a 9-yard out and the play will end with 9 yards. And like he gets open and he's got really good hands. He always has. I would be fine with that. I don't want him running, 40 routes a game, but I would be fine with that. Deontay Johnson's a really good player who Chiefs fans will hate. They will hate Deontay Johnson because he is always open. And you say, what do you mean? Why would we hate that? He has stone hands. He is one of the best separators in the league. There's data to prove that. And he's got bad hands. I know, Chiefs fans, I know you will hate him. But he's a good player. He gets open, which would be helpful.
Amari Cooper's a name that's been out there. The suggestion here from Browns beat writer Zach Jackson is it would take a 3rd-round pick. And the Chiefs would only be on the hook for his remaining base salary, which is currently $941,000. Like, there's a fit there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Good player.
Yeah.
The Jaguars have Christian Kirk, and he's under contract for next season. We talked about, the Chiefs have typically made moves not just with an eye on one season, but with an eye on a season or two to come.
Yeah.
Hence the Toney deal. Jaguars owe Kirk a lot of money. They $15 million this year, $16.5 million next year. I think Christian Kirk's a decent player. I don't know that I would trade a 2nd-round pick for Christian Kirk, and I don't think the Jaguars are going to admit defeat so readily if Doug Peterson doesn't even think he's going to lose his job.
I think the value of the pick would completely depend on how much of that salary you're going to eat.
This is true.
Like if the Chiefs say we want you to pay everything, they'd say, okay, we need at least a second. But if the Chiefs were willing to say we'll fill up the rest of our cap with what we can fit for Kirk this year, you could probably make that for a fourth. Honestly, I think that one is totally salary dependent.
The Rams beat writer Jordan Rodriguez throws out Tutu Atwell as a possibility. For me, Atwell's too similar to what they already got on the roster. Like they got gadget guys, right? Is Atwell anything more than a gadget guy?
Not really. I know someone who covers the Rams who is a huge Atwell guy, but like at some point I need something bigger than 160 pounds and 5'4" or whatever the hell he is.
I just remember when he got drafted, the comment on his draft, like I forget who it was. I'll never remember the blogger, and I feel bad about it. But they wrote like their overview of the pick was Tutu Atwell is built like an Olympic gymnast, and like the career projection was I am scared for Tutu Atwell. Like he is a very, very small man, very slight, makes Xavier Worthy look like Mr. Olympia. So I'm not really sure Tutu Atwell's the right fit. Here's one from the Giants, beat writer Dan Dugan. Darius Slayton. Consistent, steady,
deep
only
threat.
27, prone to drops here and there. Final year of his contract.
I don't hate it. I don't know that I love it, but I don't hate it. It's worth a flyer. I can understand if you're a Chiefs fan and you say no more wide receiver trades with the Giants. I can understand that, but like they can't use Darius Slayton because their quarterback is Daniel Jones. Like his best threat is going vertical. They can't use him. So I could see it.
Yeah, if it would only cost you a day 3 pick, I think that would be a pretty intriguing idea.
Yeah.
$1.6 million would be what he would be owed
That's
by
fine.
the acquiring team. Like
I've got one.
I could live with that.
I said it during the offseason. I said I wanted them to sign this guy. Do you guys remember who it is?
Is it going to be Jahan Dotson?
No.
Okay.
They
Curtis
couldn't.
Samuel?
Yeah. He's not getting utilized in Buffalo. The only tie-up is he signed a 3-year, $24 million deal.
He also almost got Josh Allen killed the other day. He was the one who tossed Allen that ball when the Ravens just smothered him. No, I mean, Samuel would be fine.
He has 6 catches on 7 targets.
Get to the others on this list.
Okay, so
and then I'll make my point.
The Steelers beat writer Mike DeFabo throws out George Pickens for a first and a third.
No.
That I think is that I don't think is the kind of swing Brett Veach would take or should take, because I think the idea of George Pickens is really tantalizing, but the production of George Pickens so far in his NFL career has not really been all that spectacular.
Well, and honestly, he's in the best fit for himself right now because he doesn't want to run over the middle, and Justin Fields loves throwing deep balls. And like he's really good on goes and back shoulder fades. It's actually a perfect situation for him now. They would probably take the first round pick, but I wouldn't give that up.
49ers beat writer Matt Barrows suggests Ronnie Bell for a 7th round pick. That's probably fair compensation. Bell's a Kansas City kid, has really fallen out of favor already in San Francisco.
Yeah, he might stink.
Yeah, that's a little what I'm worried
Great
about.
player in college, great at Michigan, but he might stink in the NFL.
And I would say with Bell too, again, too similar to what they have. Like,
yes,
they have McCole Hardman. Like Ronnie Bell we have Ronnie Bell at home, and it's McCole Hardman or whoever that's more insulting to say it the other way. Then last name here, DeAndre Hopkins.
That might be more insulting to Hardman, which is tells you all you need to know.
Last name is DeAndre Hopkins. It would only cost the acquiring team $4.13 million. Hopkins to me is the guy, like, even with Devontae Adams, like literally on the market right now, Devontae Adams is, or DeAndre Hopkins is the guy that if I'm Brett Veach, I'm kind of obsessed with the thought of bringing him in, because I saw what he did when they brought him in, when he was suspended that season, the PED suspension with the Cardinals. He came back 6 games into the season, whatever it was, and Kyler Murray was hurt, right? So it was just Colt McCoy throwing in the ball, and he was the whole offense, and he was still 10 for 100 every week, like clockwork. And I know that's a younger version of DeAndre Hopkins, but he's big. He gets open. He's not afraid of the dirty areas. I'm not worried about a veteran wide receiver taking super long to pick up verbiage and route concepts. That's the guy for me. If the Chiefs want to raise their ceiling, if they want to say, damn the torpedoes, we've only got one shot at a three-peat, let's go get a guy, it would be Hopkins for me.
I agree with everything you said Except the part about Brett Veach should be obsessed with it. Can you name the last ball winner the Chiefs had at wide receiver?
No. The Tyreek Hill?
He is actually remarkable for how good he is at contested catches.
Yes.
But like he's a separator, he's a speed guy. You know, that's his trade. The Chiefs have never had one in Bo. Like, is that the last one? Seriously, they just don't. And Veach never has. Like
Kelvin Benjamin.
MVS was a big dude, but MVS couldn't catch a jump ball to save his life. Like, that's just something they don't want. And I don't get it because it makes so much sense. Like, go find someone who can make a play. You're severely lacking guys who can go and make a play right now. Hopkins would absolutely be that guy. I just don't think he's the Chiefs type. I don't know why. I don't know why you don't want to throw that in there, but they just have no interest in it for some reason. Yeah. I would love to bring him in. I would. I was way colder on it 2 years ago when he signed with the Titans than I am right now. Like, I was wrong, man. He can still go.
Yeah, he can. And he's having to go get it for Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. And I wouldn't wish that fate on any wide receiver.
No.
But no, I understand what Brett Veach's MO has been. But at the same time.
But why? Like,
this is a different deal. This is, you have one shot at doing something no one's ever done. And right now, as currently constructed, you're not the favorites. I don't know that you can say the Chiefs are the clean favorites like you could the last 2 years.
Are we on the same page that they're waiting it out? You won't see a move until we know exactly what the diagnosis is for Rashid.
That's probably right. Like, I don't think they're going to do anything tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I think they probably wait till next week until the picture around Rice is clearer.
I do agree with you, Spencer, but I also think it's fair to say that even if they think they'll get Rice back in the regular season, I still would try to go add someone.
I agree with that as well.
Like,
I think
maybe
right.
That's when you go get Ronnie Bell for a 7th round pick. Like, you know what? We're going to have our number one, but we need something. It's worth a flyer for a pick that probably won't turn into anything anyway. Then I would look at a player like that. But I think you need something more established if you're going to add someone right now.
Let's take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Paul Myerberg still to come. Paul Myerberg from USA Today for a Big 12 football breakdown. But first, it's our first What Is Wrong With You of October next on 580 WIBW. It's our first What Is Wrong With You of the month of October here on 580 Sports Talk. 2 new stories, and we've got a local tie, well, a Kansas City tie to both of these stories. I'll go first. Rashee Rice's mom is a porch pirate.
Okay.
So here's a story from TMZ. Rashee Rice's mother is being accused of swiping a package containing Chappelle Roan records right from her neighbor's porch just hours after her son was injured on Sunday. TMZ Sports has obtained ring footage of what one Texas resident claims shows Marcia Carney wearing a custom Mama Rice number 4 jersey, walk by their doorway, look right into the camera, and then walk back down the hall around 6:39 p.m. Central Time on September 29th. You can see the woman in the jersey, then made her way back to the door, slid a package sitting on the ground with her foot, and moved it out of frame, or so she thought. But apparently didn't travel far enough, and the footage shows her turn around and lift a box from her feet before walking away. We're told the owner had purchased 2 limited edition Chappelle Roan vinyls from Urban Outfitters.
I believe it's Chapel.
Is it Chapel?
I
Yes.
think it is.
It is not Dave Chappelle Roan? Okay.
No.
Chapel Roan vinyls from Urban Outfitters, and attempted to resolve the issue with Carney, Rice, and their apartment complex leasing office in hopes of getting the items back with no luck. So, apparently Apple hasn't fallen too far from the tree here.
Wearing his jersey.
Not just wearing
it says
the
Mama Rice
not just
on it.
wearing the Rashee Rice jersey. That's one thing. I'm wearing my son's jersey. No, you're wearing the 1-of-1 custom Mama Rice joint. You might as well just put your driver's license on the back of your shirt.
Yeah. Look, you shouldn't say anything about someone's mom. Rashee, your mom's an idiot. This is very dumb. Also, the sub-headline on TMZ is BOXTOGO.
Marcia took that box to go. Very good.
All right, Spencer, what you got?
All right, let's go to Casey Moe. A 47-year-old Lee Summit man is facing multiple charges after allegedly attacking 2 women, carjacking an Amazon van, kidnapping the driver, and leading police on a chase. Clay County prosecutors charged William Robinson with kidnapping, unlawful possession of a firearm, 2 counts of first-degree assault, and 3 counts of armed criminal action. According to court documents, just after 6:40 on last Friday, KC police officers responded to residents in Clay County for an armed disturbance involving Robinson and 2 female victims. When officers got there, they stated the victim stated she just got out of the shower and heard the other victim screaming for help. She grabbed a baseball bat and tried to stop Robinson, who was striking the other woman with fists. Court documents say Robinson was able to take the bat and strike the women several times on the head.
Jesus.
He was no longer on the scene when police arrived. They found Robinson in an area with a gun. Then later on, he stole an Amazon van and kidnapped that person. Court documents say officers attempted to conduct a tactical vehicle intervention. However, it was unsuccessful. A short time later, officers were able to deploy a tire deflation device and stop the Amazon van. Robinson came out of the van and began to run on foot from officers. A short time later, they were able to apprehend him and recover the Glock 26 pistol that he had. According to court documents, he was also convicted in March of 1995 for first-degree murder, armed criminal action, and robbery, and was sentenced to 30 years.
Yeah, this guy sucks. I don't want to ever think about this person again. Rashee Rice's mom wins.
I have to agree.
Rashee Rice's mom is our first What Is Wrong With You.
Don't change the name. Just
for the
Rashee
month of
Rice's
October.
mom.
Yeah. That's all it needs to be. Paul Myerberg joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. Paul Myerberg joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. He writes for college football for USA Today, America's newspaper, and he joins us now on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Paul, let's get started with last week's Big 12 action, and we'll start with the good stuff from the Sunflower State. A big bounce back for Kansas State, 42-20. They beat Oklahoma State, and it sure looked in that game like Avery Johnson showed the potential that maybe we've been waiting all season for him to hit, as he was named the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. What stood out to you most from Kansas State, and maybe even Avery Johnson, specifically his performance?
Yeah, I'll start on Avery Johnson. He played really well, guys, but he also didn't play at his best. I thought he missed a couple throws. I thought there was a weird turnover. I think there were probably one or two big plays that might have been left on the field in the passing game. So I look at his performance and I say, okay, you're the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. You had 5 touchdowns. This is fantastic, and you can be even better. So that's the best part about the Avery Johnson game for me. We spoke last week about BYU being a blip. That was a blip. That was an 8-minute span that got out of hand, and they lost control, and they couldn't rebound. It's not a statement about the team. It's a statement about that game. They came out against Oklahoma State and answered any of those questions. If you had any questions left about Kansas State, whether or not that was the exception or the rule, that trip to Provo, clearly, whether or not you think Oklahoma State's any good, they're probably a 7 or 8 win team. Kansas State did a number on them. So I feel great about Kansas State. You're looking across this conference. Teams are very hard to predict on a week-to-week basis. You're seeing inconsistency, whether because of injuries or otherwise, from the top teams in this conference. BYU is a thing of the past. K-State is back on track. They got the job done against Oklahoma State. And clearly, we're a month in, but we're nearing the midway point of the season. I see October, after they come off their bye, being a great month for this team because they're rounding into form, putting BYU behind them, and looking to me like a top 15, top 14, top 12 team in the country potentially.
Is there a road back for Oklahoma State? They're now 0-2 in the conference, and they haven't looked very convincing or competitive in those 2 games. I know they got it close late against Utah at home, but that was much more one-sided than that final score would show. Mike Gundy's teams have kind of made a habit of not being very good until they suddenly flip the switch, but do you think they can get to that switch this year?
Yeah, no, you absolutely nailed it. Oklahoma State is a different team in games 7 through 12 typically than games 1 through 6. If you look at their schedule this season, games 7 through 12 kind of play in their wheelhouse. I'll just read off their final 5: at Baylor, Arizona State, at TCU, Texas Tech, at Colorado. That looks to me like a 4-1 stretch for a solid or good team. They're going to get better because I think they will figure out eventually 2 things. One, who they are as a team. And last year they didn't know who they were as a team until, again, October. And number 2, they will figure out how to get Ollie Gordon going. And it's not that complicated. We saw it on Saturday. He had 10 for 60, I think, on the first 2 series, and then had maybe, I don't even want to say more than 15 yards the rest of the way, maybe even less the rest of the way. Might have been 7 yards the rest of the way. This is a guy that needs to be fed. He needs to be the centerpiece of your offense. They've got to get back to that. So I think they will, but clearly not going to be a team that plays for a Big Ten championship, let alone wins one. Not a team that's going to compete for a playoff bid, obviously. Probably more, like I said, in the 7, 8, maybe the 9-win range. I think a big one is this Saturday. I think West Virginia at home could be a get-right game for them before they go on the road in 2 weeks against BYU. So this feels a lot like, hey, we got to stop the bleeding, get back on track, and get to 4-2. If they're 4-2, it's probably an 8-win season.
Paul Myerberg of USA Today joining us for the Big 12 football breakdown here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, Paul's work at USA Today, usatoday.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Paul, let's shift gears and take a look at the struggling team in the Sunflower State. The Kansas Jayhawks have now lost 4 in a row, and where with the first 3 losses, you could have looked at them and said they were a play away or a bounce away. There wasn't much excuse, although I know they tried to make the officiating one for that loss to TCU. That was a loss that maybe exposed Kansas as a team that does not have a bounce back, does not have a switch to flip. What I can't square, Paul, is how it is that a Lance Leipold team, and I think highly of Lance Leipold as a coach, and I know you do too, how they can look so disjointed and frankly kind of poorly coached at times this season.
Yeah, look, let's just go back to Saturday morning. If you had said that they would have been +2, which they were, you would have said that they were going to win this game, because the key to this game and the key to beating TCU is to force turnovers, because they are going to take chances. And if you take advantage of those chances and take advantage of your opportunities, as they did in the passing game on defense, you're going to have the opportunity to be successful. But this is a flat team. Like you said, this is a flat team. And the answers are gone. I don't have any answers whatsoever. I have no idea what they're going to do. They're bad on special teams. They're very bad on defense. And offensively, this is a shell of the team that we saw last season with Daniels. 2 years ago with Daniels and then last year without Daniels. I have no idea what the fix is. Very obviously, this is a team that's not going to make a bowl game. Clearly, this is not going to go according to expectations. This is a squad that has to start looking towards the future. Leipold is still the guy. I don't have any doubt about that. Future is still good. But this is a setback season. And I don't know if you look at their schedule and look at the way that they've played and the fact that these losses like TCU are starting to look worse and worse. They're road dogs on Saturday night. They are going to probably beat Houston. Then you got to play the Wildcats. You got to play the Cyclones. You got to go to Provo. You got to play Colorado. You got to play Baylor. I don't know where the wins are going to come from, guys. I don't want to say they're going to go 3-9, but they could go 3-9. And I don't know what the comeback and bounce back is from that. That's going to leave a stink on this program that's going to be really, really hard for them to shake off.
You mentioned it. They are road underdogs heading to Tempe Saturday night to take on Arizona State. And look, on paper, Kansas has more talent than Arizona State. But you could have said that about each of the four teams that has beaten Kansas to this point. So is it possible that Arizona State is the latest team to trip up a team with a Kansas team that maybe underperforms their talent? What would that look like, an Arizona State win in the desert?
Yeah, what it would look like is this. First off, Arizona State is a young team and a young program with a very young head coach. So they are two different teams at home and away. They're 2-0 at home, 0-2 on the road. On the road, they're not 0-2 on the road. They're 1-1 on the road. But they're a questionable team on the road because they don't seem to have the consistency to handle that environment. So I'm worried. I'm worried about Kansas going in to Tempe. It's going to be hot. It's going to be nighttime. They're going to be lubricated, those fans. It's going to be a rough environment. And I don't know if Kansas, you look at this team, in what way, why now, after 5 games, would we say, oh, they're better than Arizona State? They probably are better than Arizona State. But the results are not matching expectations. The production is not matching your own internal production that you carry onto the field when you get off the bus. So, no, I don't think they win this game because it's a tough trip. They have no confidence. And Arizona State is like Kansas 3 years ago. They're playing to put themselves on the map. They're playing to get to a bowl game, to take the next step as a program, because they believe that they are the next Big 12 team to go to 9-3, 9-4. So Arizona State is getting Kansas at the right time. I think KU's making this road trip at the wrong time. I would love it if Kansas would win because it could be a chance to flip their season. I don't know how they win. I really don't. I don't know why you would think they would win. This is not a team right now that knows how to win. So no, I'm not very confident whatsoever in a primetime game in a hyped environment. They're going to go in and beat the Sun Devils.
Our guest is Paul Myerberg of USA Today. He joins us every Thursday at this time for the Big 12 football breakdown on 580 Sports Talk. Taking one last look back at some of the results from last Saturday, Paul, is it time to start taking Colorado seriously? Because they looked more like a real football team against UCF than we have seen them look, frankly, in the Deion Sanders era. They forced 4 turnovers. They win going away against a UCF team that was a 2-touchdown favorite. Has Colorado found a mix, found an identity, and are they going to be a team to be reckoned with in the second half of the Big 12 schedule? Or do you see that as more of an indictment of UCF, maybe not quite being up to speed up front the way you need to be still in the Big 12?
I think there's an aspect of that for UCF. And looking back at it, UCF needs to manufacture a way to get their team speed involved, and they just weren't able to do that against Colorado. I don't know if their prep was bad. I don't know if they're looking past the Buffaloes. I doubt that because this is a big game for everybody to play Colorado. I don't know what to say. I think you need to put the attention on Colorado because the attention from Colorado, what this says to me is that this is a team that is forcing turnovers, finding explosive plays through the air. They're doing just about enough on the ground to be a little bit more respectable. And they did a pretty good job, I thought, defending the ball in terms of stopping the run. Not terrific, but better than what you thought they would be. So I see this as a Colorado win that justifies the hype that people have had about them, unearned, but it justifies the hype to a degree. They're 4-1. They're 2-0 on the league. You have to think now they're going to get to a bowl game. They're going to get more and more confident, and they're going to get into games like this against UCF where teams want to run with them. And Colorado wants to run. They don't want to play in the box. So I think this is a win that's going to open some eyes about Colorado, and make people believe in the fact that they can play a style of football that is conducive to the Big 12. We thought that might be the case. I think you're seeing that to a degree. They were lucky to beat Baylor. No luck whatsoever against UCF. That was a dominant performance, and maybe a sign of things to come. I don't know, but I feel good about Colorado. I think this is a good win for the program, clearly.
Iowa State took a while to put Houston away, ultimately did on the road last Saturday, 20-0. And Iowa State very quietly has gone unbeaten to start their season, and in a jumbled up top of the league, starting to get a little bit of championship game buzz. Were you more concerned about how long it took Iowa State to put Houston away, or did you feel like that was just a good team playing with their food and that the Cyclones are worthy of some of the hype they're starting to get now?
Yeah, like for it to be 3-0 at halftime when you're so clearly better than Houston, yeah, that's worrisome because all of a sudden you get a punt block or you turn the ball over and, you're losing 7-3. So that's worrisome to me. So they was playing with their food, but you look at the box score, they ran for 240 yards. They were +3 in turnovers. This is not a 20-0 game. It's more like a 200-0 game. So all systems are go for Iowa State. We talked about them last week. It's hard for me right now to say that they are legit, because we won't really know until, after Thanksgiving. They got to play Utah and Kansas State. Let's know for real what they're about at that point. Road trip to Baylor. I'm sorry, they're home for Baylor. Road trip to Morgantown a week from Saturday. That's a game that might tell us something. Iowa State has earned the recognition as a top 20 team. I think they are that good, but let's not buy in quite yet. Let's see a little bit more. But what you are seeing, guys, against the Power 4 teams that they have played, is a style of football that looks a lot like the style of football that Iowa State has played successfully under Campbell. You're seeing growth from their young quarterback. You're seeing a very good defensive line, a very good front seven, and you're seeing an offensive front that is setting a tempo and setting a tone. So I really like what I see. I want to see them replicated on the road in Big 12 play against a legit opponent.
A game this Saturday that got a lot more interesting given recent results. Arizona at home against Texas Tech. Arizona goes to Salt Lake City and beats Utah. Yes, no Cam Rising for Utah, but still, Noah Fafita made some big-time throws on the road to get Arizona a win when it looked like their season might go south after that loss at Kansas State prior to conference play. Now they take on a Texas Tech team trying to get some wind in their sails. They win a good old-fashioned Lubbock shootout against Cincinnati last week. What's your read on this game, and is Arizona back in the Big 12 championship picture?
I think they are, but I'm confused why this offense is still kind of stuck in neutral. I'm looking at this offense, looking at this passing game, and I'm wondering why they can't get things moving. Beating Utah is great. Beating Utah in Salt Lake is like take a picture and frame it and put it in your office. That's a big time win. But I want to see more offensively, and I'm not seeing enough from Arizona for me to say they're a Big 12 contender. They're a Big 12 contender. They're not a Big 12 champion. Texas Tech is another team. They find ways to win. They really shouldn't be beating Cincinnati by 3 points. They shouldn't need whatever it was, double OT to beat Abilene. So Texas Tech, God bless them. To be 4-1 is better than to be 1-4, but there's not a lot here that makes you feel like they're a legitimately good team. Arizona at home at night, they've got to win this game for us to buy in, but they also got to score points because Tech's offense is really good, and what they have done really, really well, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me, their tempo is unbelievable. They are just go, 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 go. So that's going to stress Arizona. It's going to put stress on their defense, and they're going to have to respond offensively. If they can do that and run with Texas Tech and beat them at home, that's a different story. We can talk about it next Thursday. For now, these are 2 teams that I would put, despite their records, they're combined 3-0 in the Big 12. They're not in the top 4. They might not even be in the top 5 in this conference right now.
All right, Paul Myerberg of USA Today. Last thing, of course, is our dumpster juice game of the week. And this week, we've got a little Saturday Maction. Western Michigan and Ball State is the game we'll have you give us a read on. Both teams are 1-3. Ball State in particular, the metrics do not like them very much. Western Michigan is a 10-point favorite in this game. Who you like, the Broncos or the Cardinals?
Yeah, I like the Broncos. Ball State is bad. And look, and maybe Western Michigan is not that bad. Losing at Wisconsin, okay, it was somewhat competitive. Got destroyed by Ohio State. Played Marshall pretty well, and Marshall's a 7-win team and a really good Sun Belt. So this is Western Michigan all the way. Ball State's terrible, just absolutely terrible. What they've done the last couple of weeks is like an absolute horror show. So yeah, I'm feeling really, really good about Western Michigan. I'm even going to double down. This is called a parlay. I'm going Western Michigan and -10.
Oh, all right. Straight up, and he's laying the points in the dumpster juice game of the week. Take it to the bank. Paul Myerberg, USA Today, joins us every Thursday for the Big 12 football breakdown on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Paul, it is always a pleasure. Enjoy your college football weekend, and we'll talk to you next Thursday.
Hey, thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
That is Paul Myerberg. We will step aside, come back, and wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk, right after this.
Wrapping up the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. It'll be a solo mission for the final hour with just yours truly. Brendan Dworzinski's on his way to Skinny Sports Bar and Grill here in Topeka for the Washburn Football Coaches Show tonight. You can hear over on our sister station, home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9, KTPK FM, and on mycountry1069.com. Or you just go out to Skinny's, hang out with Brendan and Ichabod head coach Craig Sherg as they look ahead to Hall of Fame weekend in their home game with Northwest Missouri State. If you go out to Yeager, by the way, you'll hear me on the PA on Saturday.
You're doing that again Saturday?
Yeah. They wrote me back in to do it again on a Saturday afternoon. So I will be there for that. Of course, tonight we've got high school football. The 580 Preps Thursday Night Football presented by Lewis Toyota. Spencer Dupuis on the play-by-play. Yours truly on the color as Topeka West takes on Baser Linwood. So Spencer's on his way to Hummer Sports Park to go get set up, which means I've got you for the final hour with headlines, our conversation with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, a look at what's on tap in the sports world tonight, plus your texts and your comments in the YouTube live chat. So hang with us. One more hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 3 on this Thursday. And it is, as I mentioned, a solo mission the rest of the way. I am Dan Lucero, delighted to be with you for a final hour of this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream, which we're still rocking despite you only having one person to look at, yours truly. And I don't blame you if those streaming numbers go all the way down. But we are on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. And we are on Facebook as well. You can watch us on WIBW News on Facebook. So however you are consuming the show today, thanks for hanging out here on 580 Sports Talk. Still to come in this final hour of the show, we'll take a look at what's coming up on this Thursday night in the sports world. We got a double dose of college football. We've, of course, got Thursday night NFC South football. Who's excited? And we got one Major League Baseball playoff game, which we'll get to, I suppose, in the playoff roundup. Which reminds me, I need to find the playoff roundup sounder for the show. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it or not, but we'll do a playoff roundup coming up in a little bit here. And there's only one of the 4 wild card series still ongoing. Of course, the Royals, not one of them. That's why you're hearing us today and not baseball. Royals took care of business, swept the Orioles in 2. Royals, Yankees this weekend from Yankee Stadium. Game 1 Saturday night. We'll get to that in headlines. Also, Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, will join us in about 20 minutes or so. We'll get Mitch's final thoughts on the Chiefs' 4-0 start and a look ahead to Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints, a much improved Saints team from, I think, well, let me put it this way. I think the Saints, despite not having an impressive record at 2-2, feel a little bit more formidable than maybe they did back when the schedule was unveiled. And that's in part because of what they've shown themselves capable of being at their best. And also in part, the Chiefs haven't shown themselves to be particularly invincible in any meaningful way beyond, like, they don't lose. They look gettable. They just don't get got, which better than the alternative, right? So we'll get Mitch Holthus' take, the voice of the Chiefs. He'll join us here in just a little while. You are, of course, invited and encouraged to continue to interact with the program, interact with your hosts, host singular for the rest of the show today. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We've got the live chat humming. And, of course, you can text the program. The Top City Mental Supply text line is 785-272-9429. Where'd everybody go? Quick reminder, Brendan Dworzinski's got the Washburn Football Coaches Show tonight out at Skinny's Sports Bar and Grill, corner of Huntoon and Gage in Topeka. Skinny's, where every day is game day. Brendan will be there with the head coach of the Ichabod's, Craig Schurig. They'll look back on Washburn's first win of the year over Western last week, and look ahead to their game against Northwest Missouri State this Saturday at Yager Stadium. 3 o'clock kickoff, by the way, for that one. So you could go to that one. If you're in the Topeka area, you go to that game, watch and cheer on the Ichabods, and get home in time for the KU game. Order a pizza on the way back home, have it waiting for you when you get back. And so go see the Ichabods. Go cheer on the Ichabods at Yager Stadium this weekend. And go say hi to Brendan and Coach Schurig and the gang out at Skinny's tonight from 6 to 7. That's over on our sister station, the home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Spencer Dupuis is on his way to Hummer Sports Park. He'll lead the broadcast tonight. It is 580 Preps Thursday Night Football, presented by Lewis Toyota. Topeka West looking for their first win of 2024, taking on 3-1 Baser Linwood in United Kansas Conference action. We'll have a double dose of overtime for you in the 6 o'clock hour. We'll have a couple of conversations of the day, and then we'll have it live from Hummer with Spencer and myself. You'll hear from Trey Parker, the head coach of the Topeka West Chargers, and then we'll bring you the football game. Tomorrow night, 580 Preps Lewis Toyota Game of the Week will be a Centennial League City rivalry. Topeka High hosting Washburn Rural at Hummer Sports Park. And we will have that broadcast for you pregame, starting with the 580 Preps Coaches Club at 6 o'clock. You'll hear from the city head coaches whose games are on Friday night. So we'll run the Coaches Club, then we'll take it out of Hummer Sports Park with myself, Greg Akagi, and Spencer Dupuy on the broadcast tomorrow night for the Lewis Toyota 580 Preps Game of the Week. But let's get into some 580 Sports Talk headlines. And Virginia wants to talk some Royals in the YouTube live chat. Virginia, welcome. Let's go Royals indeed. Let's start with the Royals. Again, first 2 game times are set for the American League Division Series at Yankee Stadium against the Yankees. 5:38 first pitch on Saturday, then a day off, then a Monday 6:38 first pitch, then another day off, then games 3 and 4, if necessary, will be at Kauffman Stadium Wednesday and Thursday. Those times are still to be determined. I think they're going to wait and unveil those. I would think you would know those by the time you go to bed tonight, would be my guess. I think they're going to wait and see who wins the other National League series and then worry about first pitch times. But I would think they would be evening games because I think baseball wants to get the Yankees on TV in primetime. You understand why that would be the case. So I would expect evening games rather than afternoon games for the division series, but I could be wrong. I try to guess what Rob Manfred's going to do, but that's a fool's errand, really. The Royals have announced their first 2 starting pitchers for the series as well. It'll be Michael Wacha, who was set to pitch today, had there been a Game 3 in the Baltimore series. Michael Wacha will go Game 1 for the Royals, followed by Cole Reagans in Game 2. And the way the series spreads out, with the off day Tuesday and an off day Friday, you could see Reagans twice in this series if necessary. He could go Game 2 and then would be on full rest for a potential decisive Game 5 if the series were to get there. So that's good news. And the Royals can maximize their top guy despite not being able to get to use him in Game 1. Michael Wacha will go Game 1. I would suspect it would be Seth Lugo for Game 3, but nothing has been set in stone beyond the first 2 games by manager Matt Cotrero. Same goes for Aaron Boone, the Yankees manager. He long ago said that Garrett Cole would start Game 1. Naturally, he's the Yankees ace. It'll be southpaw Carlos Rodon who goes Game 2. Familiar face, obviously, longtime pitcher in the American League Central with the White Sox in his second year with the Yankees. He'll go for the Bronx Bombers against the Royals in Game 2, opposing Reagans. Battle of left-handers there. The games will be broadcast on TBS. I believe TBS has the entire series, which means if you subscribe to Max, you should be able to watch them on that subscription streaming service as well. The broadcast crew has also been announced. Ron Darling on the analysis. Bob Costas is your play-by-play man for this series. And I know there are some people that don't like Bob Costas, that think maybe Bob Costas has lost his fastball a little bit. I'm not inclined really to disagree with that, actually. I do not think that Bob Costas is the same broadcaster that he used to be. I don't. But Bob Costas knows baseball history, and I think it's going to be really neat to have somebody who can contextualize the history of the Royals and the Yankees in the playoffs, because there are generations of Royals fans who do not remember the late 70s and 1980, that the Royals and the Yankees met 4 times in 5 years in best-of-5 series, just like this one, only those were for the American League pennant. Bob Costas was around for those. I don't believe he was the play-by-play guy. I think it was all, probably would have been Howard Cosell on the national broadcast on ABC back in the day. But Costas will give you a good history lesson. Costas knows how to tell a story, weave a narrative. I'm never disappointed to hear Bob Costas on the broadcast. Never. So looking forward to having him on the game. That's our first headline. That's our Royals headline. While we're on baseball, we may as well just get to it. And I found the open after all. So
it's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
as I mentioned, only one game tonight, a 6 o'clock first pitch at Miller Park in, I guess they don't call it Miller Park anymore, do they? It's American Family Field, I think now. I'm always going to call it Miller Park, I think. In Milwaukee tonight, Game 3 of the American League Wild Card Series between the Mets and the Brewers. Brewers stormed back and got a 2-run home run by Garrett Mitchell to go ahead in the bottom of the 8th inning and beat the Mets 5-3 to force a decisive Game 3 that will be the only baseball game tonight. That's because Padres and the Tigers finished off sweeps yesterday. First, it was the Tigers in the American League. Andy Ibanez and a go-ahead 3-run double off of Josh Hader in the 8th inning. And that gave the Tigers a 5-2 win in Houston. The Astros, there's irony here. The Astros are the team that felt the most immune to the randomness of October baseball in recent years. They had been for 7 consecutive years at least as far as the championship series. That's an incredible accomplishment, especially given the fact that in that 7 years, you've had other teams put together great seasons and be consistently good. The Dodgers, the Braves, and the like. None of those teams have been 7 straight years with winning at least one playoff series or getting as far as the championship series. The Astros managed it. It's a remarkable feat. Trash cans or no trash cans. They felt immune to the variance of October baseball. And now here come the Tigers, who are just all variance, right? A team that was 8 games below 500, traded their second best starting pitcher at the deadline. They're out of starting pitchers. They've got Tarek Skubal and the bullpen. They might start like Keter Montero or Casey Mize or Kenta Maeda. None of those guys are good. Those guys are going to have to start playoff games. And I don't know if it matters because the Tigers have just decided they're not losing. They are now 35-11 maybe in their last 46 games. It's something ridiculous. I'm not looking directly at the number, but they're on a remarkable heater. And they've got one good starting pitcher and 2 bats that you really have to be afraid of. And only one of them if you're left-handed because Kerry Carpenter doesn't hit lefties. And yet here they are. They're hitting like 800 with runners in scoring position the last month and a half. It really is something. Every opportunity they get, they seem to cash in. Every jam they seem to pitch their way out of. It's a heck of a run. It gives me 2007 Rockies vibes a little bit, which are, that gives me the warm and fuzzies. But the Tigers moving on in the American League, they will take on the Guardians. We explained this earlier, but just in case you're not aware, again, Major League Baseball does not reseed their postseason the way that the NFL does. So just because the 2 low seeds won, the bracket doesn't change. It's always the number 1 seed playing the winner of the 4-5 series, which was Baltimore, Kansas City, and the number 2 seed playing the winner of the 3-6 series, which was the Houston Detroit series. So Cleveland ends up the easier draw, so to speak, although I don't think anybody wants to play the Tigers right now, but they get the easier draw in terms of seed. But again, there's no difference. The 2 teams had the same record, right? The Royals only got the 5 because of the tiebreaker. So it's not that big a deal this year in particular, but that is why the 5 seed is not playing the higher seed in the playoffs. Or the 6 seed, rather, isn't playing the higher seed. They don't reseed in Major League Baseball. So, in the National League, the Padres jumped all over Braves ace Max Fried for 5 runs in the second inning. That was all they got, was all they needed. They held on late, a 5-4 win over the Braves. The Padres move on. They're going to play the Dodgers in the National League Division Series. That's going to be very heated. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think the Padres are going to win. I think the Dodgers are out of arms. I just think they're plumb out of arms. So, I was wrong. I predicted if you watched, if you hung out with us on YouTube during the days we did not have shows, I put together shows just for the YouTube, called them the No Show Today shows. And I picked all the home teams in the wild card round, and I might go 1-3. I was right about the Padres, obviously wrong about the Astros and the Orioles, and we'll see what happens tonight in Game 3 between the Mets and the Brewers. Jayhawkers in the YouTube live chat says, go Dodgers. Can't stand Manny Machado. I second that last emotion. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis are 2 of my least favorite players in baseball. I'm a National League West guy, right? That's how I grew up. I hate both of those teams. I wish them both ill. There has to be a winner. I'd take the team with Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts on it. At least those guys are cool. I don't think the Padres stars are cool. I think one is lazy, and I think he is a bad attitude guy, and I think the other guy is a cheater, a steroid cheat, Fernando Tatis. So, I'll root for the Dodgers in that series, but I feel dirty even saying the words, I'll root for the Dodgers. Hard for me to do. Anyway, that's the playoff roundup. Since that's out of the way, we'll go ahead and sprint through the rest of some of these headlines. Big NFL injury note today. Mentioned earlier in the show, as far as the Chiefs were concerned, Rashee Rice to injured reserve, even though there is no clear-cut diagnosis as to what exactly is wrong with his right knee. And the Chiefs were always of the belief he was going to have to spend some time on injured reserve, and the Chiefs made that official today. Nobody has been elevated to the 53-man roster. There's been no corresponding move yet. Meanwhile, the Miami Dolphins already in the midst of a nightmare season. It got worse today as their talented edge rusher Jalen Phillips has been ruled out for the season with a knee injury. Remember, Phillips tore his Achilles on the Black Friday game against the Jets last season, had just come back, and now has suffered a season-ending knee injury. Really tough break for Jalen Phillips. Some conference realignment news of note. Texas State has said no to the Mountain West Conference. The Mountain West is still one full member away from the 8 required to be viewed as a viable conference, particularly when it comes to football. And they were interested in adding Texas State, but the Bobcats yesterday reaffirmed their commitment to the Sun Belt Conference. So now the Mountain West is pivoted towards Hawaii. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I thought Hawaii was in the Mountain West. Yes, but no, they're not a full member of the conference. They are just a football playing member. All the rest of their sports are in the Big West. But if Mountain West Conference were able to bring the Rainbows aboard, as a full member, that would satisfy the 8-member requirement. And one other headline of note to get to, the preseason Big 12 women's basketball coaches poll was released today. And for the first time ever, the Kansas State Wildcats are the preseason conference favorites. Never happened before in the history of the Big 12. K-State received 7 of the 15 first-place votes. Some coach didn't vote, clearly. There are 15 first-place votes. No, there weren't. There were 16. I can't do math. K-State got 7. Iowa State got 6. Baylor got 2. West Virginia got the last one. K-State, 7 first-place votes, just edging out Iowa State for the status as the favorite preseason in the Big 12. The rest of the coaches poll, Iowa State number 2, Baylor, TCU, West Virginia 3 through 5, Utah, Arizona, Kansas, Colorado, and Texas Tech 6 through 10. So KU coming in right in the middle. Oklahoma State, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, Arizona State, and Houston rounding out the women's basketball preseason coaches poll. Ayoka Lee named the preseason player of the year by the coaches as well. Before we get to a break, the Jayhawker has the big question. This isn't an Ask Me Anything, but this is an Ask Me Something, and I think it's a great question because it is pertinent, and we'll do a little show business while we have the chance. How busy are the pizza delivery places going to be on Monday when the Royals and Chiefs are on at the same time? That is going to be some kind of night if you are a Kansas City sports fan. Royals, Yankees, Game 2, and Monday Night Football, Chiefs, Saints going on simultaneously. If you want to hear the broadcasts of those, if you're a Theater of the Mind fan and you want to hear the radio broadcast, the Royals will be on 580. The Chiefs will be in our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country. The Jayhawker asking what I'm going to be having for the games. That is a great question. I will have to discuss that with my wife. I'm thinking chicken wings. I'm always thinking chicken wings, though. Like there are very few times in a day when I'm not thinking about chicken wings, if we're just going to be completely honest about it. So that's the best I can answer your question right now, Jayhawker. Thanks for the question. Thanks for tuning in to the program. Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, going to join us next as we roll along on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I love that riff. Love that Deftones riff. It's worth letting play out a little bit. It's 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Dan Lucero with you, and joined right now by the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, whose appearances on 580 Sports Talk are brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. Contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Kristen Ambergy from Azura about the credit union advantage of getting your first or next home loan. Mitch, we talked about it last week. We'll talk about it again with the Chiefs. Winning close games feels like a demerit in the NFL where you get credit for it in other sports. The Chiefs win another close one on the road at the Chargers, 17-10. And this time it was a joint effort with the defense getting the big stop and then the offense putting it away with the first down they had to get late. And once again, winning is a habit. The Chiefs are in it. The Chargers are not. And I think you saw the difference in the fourth quarter.
Well, to both our points here, let's just look at the Royals. And great job. I mean, incredible 2 wins to wipe out Baltimore and now get ready for New York. But think about the exhilarating feeling of winning 1-0 and 2-1. And everybody's bragging about the bullpen and how good they were. And the starting pitching was great. Baltimore maybe barreled up two hits in 2 games. Now think about the difference. If you do that over a long period of time in football, it's a negative. Well, that's the way the Chiefs have been winning now for 10 straight games. Plus 61, the slimmest margin in a 10-game winning streak in NFL history, and then 7 games by 7 points or less. That ties an all-time NFL record. So, again, it's just if you're liking the Royals winning the way they're winning, that's the way the Chiefs have been winning for a long time.
And I think mental toughness is revealed in a situation like the Chiefs were in, because it's not 5 minutes into the game or it's not very long into the game. The Chiefs are behind 7-0. They have just given the ball away. Rashee Rice has been injured to the point of needing a cart to leave the field. And the Chiefs defense is having to work against a short field and avoid going down by 2 touchdowns. And it all felt like it could have spilled over and gotten real bad in that moment for the Chiefs. They hold the Chargers to a field goal and do not let them score the rest of the game. And a Chiefs offense that surely had to be shaken, as any team is when they see one of their teammates carted off, regain their composure and put together the scoring drives they needed to win.
You chronicled it very well. I mean, this is why this team has also won 3 Super Bowls and trailed by 10 points in all 3 and still rallied to win. It's something I talk about all the time that is missing in athletics and actually our society at all levels, and that is mental and emotional toughness. And the standpoint that who's going to overcome those things. And so, again, the Chiefs could have melted like the Wicked Witch of the West under those circumstances, because that was a firestorm. And Mahomes kept his composure. Nobody panics. Nobody points fingers. Everybody just stays on task and try to figure out how to fix it and rally it. But I've seen this for 12 years with Andy Reid. And I've seen it a whole lot with Patrick Mahomes and a whole lot with Kelsey and the others. But it's a trait. It's not a weakness. It's a strength. And this team has it more than any team in the NFL has had it over the past decade.
With regards to the Rashee Rice injury, he's placed on injured reserve today. And goodness, Mitch, if the best doctors cannot look at Rashee Rice's knee and have the clear picture of what is going on in there, I certainly don't expect any of us lay people to have an idea of that injury. But for whatever the duration of his absence might be, the Chiefs always talk about the next man up mentality. Who do you see as having the big opportunity to be the next man up and really fill a void in the offense that will be created for however long Rashee Rice isn't out there?
I'm just it's not a wishy-washy answer. It's an answer that I've seen also for 12 years with Andy Reid, and that there's no one single person. It's, as I've told you before, it's an algebraic quadratic equation with 4 or 5 variables. And it goes week to week. Even if Rice is healthy and Brown's healthy, it frustrates fantasy drafters because you're like, I don't know who to pick. Well, I can't tell you there's going to be one guy getting more targets in this. It's going to be a collective effort. And truthfully, it has to be that way because there's nobody. I mean, with the 3 guys out right now, you're looking at a collective. I mean, if you want to extrapolate this, you're looking at 2,800 yards and about 15 touchdowns that's out. So to get it done, there is no one dude that's going to be, hey, that guy can pick up all of that. It's going to take a village. I'm giving you cliches, but that's the truth of the matter. It's going to take everybody that's eligible to touch the ball to be a part of this solution.
Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Mitch's appearances are brought to us by Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. Mitch, the New Orleans Saints come to Kansas City for Monday Night Football in week number 5, and they do so with a defense that is playing really well with a lot of familiar names on that side of the ball, most notably the Honey Badger.
Well, and then Colin Saunders, Super Bowl 57 sack. One of the most underrated plays of that game when he sacked Jalen Hurts and stopped the Eagles at a critical time. Willie Gay Jr. on the injured list. Don't think he'll play. 47-yard tip pass scoop or interception against the Broncos on the road. These guys are Chiefs heroes that are now Saints. Ton of Passignos on that team. He's on injured reserve right now, so he's there. The Honey Badgers doing a good job again. This is you nailed it, a feisty defense. This is a 4-0 team in 2-2 clothing. They lose 15-12 to Philadelphia, and it's a 3-0 game in the fourth quarter. And Philadelphia takes the lead with 1:03 to go, set up by a long Saquon Barkley run. That's it. Or the Saints win that game. And then last week, they lose a game to the Falcons where they did not allow a defensive touchdown. And so there's no offensive touchdowns, I should say, for Atlanta. It's a muff punt. It's a touchdown. And then a screen that gets tipped in the air, and the dude that intercepts it's got nobody to even worry about because everybody's on the opposite side of the field. Really, really weird. And then all the field goals, and Young Koo gets the game winner. This is a nasty defense. They've only allowed 5 red zone penetrations all year and only allowed 1 touchdown. That's 20% red zone touchdown efficiency, the best in the league. They're near the top in third down defense as well. Nasty, feisty team. 8 takeaways. So this is a team that very much reminds me of a Charger team in the way that they play and the mentality.
Offensively, there was obviously great early success. Everybody saw them put a big number on the Cowboys back in week 2. That has cooled off a little bit for this Saints offense just in terms of the sheer production, but it's still an offense with a lot of talent, a quarterback, Derek Carr, who's not going to be afraid or at least will be familiar with the spotlight there at Arrowhead Stadium. What is most dangerous about this Saints offense that this Chiefs defense will be tested by?
So unique. This is unique. This is almost like playing the service academies in the college realm because of what they do and how they do it. Now, we know Alvin Kamara is all-purpose stud, and they run the ball 56% of the time. So this sounds like the Charger report, but they also take their shots. Chris Olave's had a really good year. Rashid Shaheed might be the most underrated speed guy in the whole NFL. Like, look how many big plays he's had for touchdowns just over and over and over again. He muffs the punt. He'll be looking to get after it. Williams at running back is good. And they go, well, it's Derek Carr. But let's be honest, they fired their entire offensive staff. They hired Clint Kubiak, who was with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. This is very San Francisco-ish. And if Derek Carr was looking at Calc 3 or Calc 2 with the Raiders, he's looking at general math here with the Saints. They have reduced his package down a whole lot. That does not mean they're ineffective. To me, the most dangerous dude, and he's on the injured list, if he doesn't play, it'll be a gigantic break, and you know where I'm going. Taysom Hill. Slot, split in, running back, quarterback. He looks like Colin Klein in the 2012 K-State Big 12 team. He's so effective. He'll play defense, special teams. Dude, he's just a monster, and he gets in the red zone. So Kamara's really good. Olave's really good. Shaheed's underrated and fast, almost as fast as Xavier Worthy. And then you get Taysom Hill that just gives you fits of like, what's he going to do and how's he going to do it? This team's good. Again, I told you, this is a 4-0 team in 2-2 clothing.
All right, Mitch, as we wrap things up with you this week, we always look forward to learning something about the matchup that's deep inside the numbers. We call them your nuggets of the night. What have you got for this Monday night matchup at Arrowhead Stadium?
Oh, man, for this, I'm trying to think of a good one for this new well, I'll put it this way. How about 2 MIAA guys on the Saints roster at play? How about Nathan Shepard of the Fort Hays State Tigers?
Mm-hmm.
You remember him. He was MIAA Defensive Player of the Year. And then they got the dude from Pitt State as well on this team. So they're just a bunch of local flavor on the Saints team that you alluded to. And there's even more than you mentioned. So I don't know who the Saints have in their scouting department, but he must be living down by the Hy-Vee at Wanamaker in Topeka, because they're getting a bunch of local dudes on this team.
Well, if he's local, he'll probably have one eye on the Royals Monday night and another eye on the Monday Night Football
Here's
affair.
the other one, though. Here's the other one. I mean, the fact that the Chiefs are so good on the road in the division, and Pat Mahomes is 18-1 on the road against in the division. You know, the best NFC team is against their division on the road over the past, it'd be 15 games over the past 3 years, and they haven't made the playoffs. Are the Saints. They're the best NFC team. They can win on the road. They're tough-minded.
It will be a tough one on Monday night as the Chiefs play host to the New Orleans Saints, trying to keep their record unblemished for 2024. And the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, will be on the call. He joined us courtesy of our friends at Hy-Vee and Azure Credit Union. Mitch, it is always a pleasure. Have a great call on Monday. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
That is Mitch Holthus. And we will take a quick break here. We'll come back, tell you what's on tap on your TVs tonight. It's not a Royals Chiefs double feature or anything, but there's something to keep you entertained, I bet, in the world of sports. We'll talk all about it on the other side of this timeout on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk. It's 5:43 on this Thursday afternoon. Dan Lucero taking you the rest of the way. Brendan Dworzinski's locked and loaded for the Washburn Football Coaches Show tonight out at Skinny Sports Bar and Grill, the corner of Huntoon and Gage in Topeka. I don't even think any part of that is under construction. I think that should be easy enough for everyone to get to tonight. Where every day is game day, and tonight it's the home of the Washburn Football Coaches Show. From 6 to 7 over on our sister station, Country 106.9, the home of the Ichabods. Brendan will be hanging out with Craig Schurig, talking shop with the Ichabod head coach. Also tonight here on 580 WIBW, we've got some high school football for you. It is 580 Preps Thursday Night Football, presented by Lewis Toyota, as the Topeka West Chargers host the Basel Linwood Bobcats in United Kansas Conference action at Hummer Sports Park. Spencer's on the call. Yours truly will join him racing over there as soon as I'm done here on 580 Sports Talk. Look forward to having you join us for some high school football tonight and tomorrow night. We'll have Topeka High and Washburn Rural as our Lewis Toyota 580 Preps game of the week tomorrow. Tonight, take a look at what's on tap in the world of sports. We do have Thursday night football, PU, Bucks, Falcons. I guess PU's a little harsh. These are real teams. This isn't like that Titans Dolphins catastrophe that was foisted upon all of us on Monday night as one of the two Monday night games. These are real teams. Tampa Bay's 3-1. Their only loss is a weird one to Denver. Baker Mayfield's playing good ball. They are underdogs going to Atlanta tonight to play the 1-2 Falcons. That smells fishy to me. I'll just tell you that right now. I am very surprised that the Buccaneers are not favored, and that smells fishy. Our friends at Prairie Band Sportsbook have the Falcons laying 2.5. The total sitting at 44 for tonight's game. Fun fact about that, if you watch the game tonight on Amazon Prime, all the Thursday games are on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime does not air political advertising during their NFL broadcasts. That may come as a relief to some of you who like to watch football or anything, but maybe don't love the political ads. For whatever reason you might have to not like those. You don't see them on Amazon Prime. So good for Amazon for doing that. Bucks Falcons, that is your Thursday night game. I think Bucks are going to win. I think Tampa Bay is a better team. I don't think that the Falcons have quite discovered what their identity is with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. I think Tampa Bay is a little more well-rounded than they are. I think they go on the road and they win tonight. I would like them better if the number were at 3. 2.5, again, smells fishy to me, but I think Bucks are going to win outright. So I guess that's my pick for tonight's NFL game. We've got 2 college football games tonight. By the way, maybe you didn't know this. This is the start of a 56-day stretch. Brett McMurphy had the exact number, and he's never wrong. And he's happy to tell you he's never wrong. Brett McMurphy had the exact number, 56, I think it is, consecutive days with football of some kind on television. No more football-free nights, because we're going to start getting, Tuesday night and Wednesday night college football. And there's been Thursday night football and Friday night. But your Tuesdays and your Wednesdays moving forward, you're going to have some college football action. Maction, little Conference USA, if you're into that. Midweek college football comes back next week. So if you love football, you're going to have a game on to watch every single night. 2 college football games tonight. Texas State is at Troy. Texas State favored by 13.5 at Prairie Band Sportsbook in Marietta. The total 57.5 in that one. Texas State is really fun on offense. And Troy misses John Sumrall as head coach. So there's that game. There's also a battle between 2 teams that are going to be wearing a very similar shade of orange tonight. Sam Houston State is at UTEP. UTEP's got some special uniforms they're wearing tonight that are extremely orange. Sam Houston State also wears orange helmets. So it'll be orange on orange tonight in El Paso. The Bearcats, with a K, are 10.5-point favorites on the road. The total 50.5. Again, those numbers courtesy Prairie Band Sportsbook. There's baseball tonight as well. Game 3 of the Mets-Brewers series. It's the only wild card series to need a decisive game. Winner of this one goes to Philadelphia to play the Phillies. Some prize. The pitching matchup tonight, Jose Quintana goes for the Mets. Anytime I hear the name Quintana, I always think of my favorite movie ever, The Big Lebowski. That creep can roll, man. That's not nice to say about Jose Quintana, who, to the best of my knowledge, is not a Peter ass, Walter. But he is 10-10 with a 3.75 earned run average this year for the Mets. Brewers countering with rookie Tobias Myers, who might have been the best National League rookie that nobody talked about this year. Obviously, Paul Skeens of the Pirates and Jackson Merrill of the Padres got all the attention. Imanaga and Yamamoto, the two Japanese imports for the Cubs and the Dodgers, too. But Tobias Myers was excellent for the Brewers this year. 9-6 with an ERA of an even 3. So, interesting pitching matchup tonight. I kind of think the Brewers win. They are money line favorites tonight, -129 per Prairie Band. So that is that's the money line pick for tonight. I picked the Brewers to win the series. I don't know if there'll be any hangover for the Mets playing I guess this would be their 6th high stakes game in 5 days. You would think there'd be a hangover effect at some point for them. Maybe that kicks in today in the Brewers cruise. I don't know. I'll take the crew either way, one way or another. Going to take a break here, our final break. When we come back, a final word about the boys who are still playing some ball, the Kansas City Royals. That's coming up to wrap up 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up, walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word, and it's about those Kansas City Royals who are moving on to the American League Division Series, sweeping the Orioles in two heart-stopping games, 1-0 on Tuesday, 2-1 yesterday afternoon. I have my qualms with the expanded playoffs in Major League Baseball. I do. I think you devalue the postseason when you let more teams into it. You make it easier to get into. You make it more random, the final result. It doesn't reward the teams who were the best over the course of 162 games. And eventually, I will come to terms with the idea that the baseball we watch in October, the sport we're watching, is a different sport than the one that we watch for the 6 months previous. It just is. And for entertainment value, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I like the idea of rewarding teams who make it through the marathon rather than the teams who just are really good at sprinting. But that's me, and I've got to get over that one way or another. Here's what I do like, though, that this format and this expanded playoff incentivizes teams to try and be good, and it rewards teams who tried to be good by giving them a chance in October. The Kansas City Royals belong here, and they deserve to be here. Beyond the great season that Bobby Witt Jr. had, or the stellar starting pitching, or the retooled bullpen, all of the things that we saw in evidence in even this short wild card series, they deserve to be here as an organization because they saw an opportunity to put a good team on the field, and they went for it with everything they had. There were no half measures. They spent $110 million in free agency. They cashed in what little prospect capital they had, or at least a good chunk of it, to try and improve the team at the trade deadline. They did anything and everything they could in an emergency to try and make the team better after the loss of Vinny Pasquantino. The Royals, on an organizational level, deserve this because they went for it. They tried. They gave the effort. So many organizations in baseball are happy to sit back and wait for the draft to bear fruit. And the Royals could have done that. They could have waited 2-3 more years to beef up the farm system. And then maybe by the time Bobby Witt Jr. was a year or two from free agency, maybe then you've got a team winning in the mid-80s in games. Maybe there's another wave of prospects that would be on the way by then. A lot of teams are content to do that. Hope is not a strategy. Ask the White Sox. Ask the Rockies. Ask the Marlins. Ask teams who wait and who hope. Hell, ask the Orioles. They have a great major league roster, but hoped that what they did on the fringes to upgrade it would be enough, and it wasn't. The Royals acted. The Royals were urgent. The Royals believed this was possible, and the players believed it was possible, and now it is. And now they're going to New York. We'll talk a lot about that series, preview it tomorrow. We'll preview the football weekend, the college and the pro football weekend. Matt Derrick will join us. I hope you will too for 580 Sports Talk on a Friday. Until then, for Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan. We'll see you.